Good then. Okay, ona gadi wahi gajokwa. So what we'll see us nyari. Gazit dan zrio yojit kahawe nuji on dudget square star no nata runi. Detinu wadadu gurunga gadi agesum. Yeti sota asitanka garako dana yetin stazi honzage dana goigu skat ne ganungwe. Detinu wadadu agwedzini ganyat de gerdo dana goigu o quadzere onunko sukna. Detinu wadadu yeti sota gonha ne ron nata hetsten gane guri dari hawakwe. Ayon kiat again ha damdawi aron hetzeran gazat stasseran ganungwe. Damdawi aron hetzeran agwego on a goran gayon rasa go ne skana dano gayanda wana ne gane guri. Damdawi aron hetzeran ori wheel gari what gori shunsera dano gazat stassera. Okay, so as always, as you know, we always have to begin by carrying out the Honda Gadi Wadekwa. This is the words that come before all else. Whenever we gather in council, ceremony, meeting, anything, we always have to carry out the opening address, which is to acknowledge, give thanks for all the things in creation that have created us and that we need to continue to sustain us.
Entonces, buenos días, tardes a todas y todos. Como siempre empezamos el encuentro con el Ojón de Carihuatecua. Son las palabras de agradecimiento a todas las cosas que estaban ahí antes de nosotros, que nos han dado la vida y que nos dan sustento.
Okay, so we always begin by giving thanks to the great spiral of creation. When we look into the nighttime sky, we are not looking up into cold, dark, empty space as the way that modern science wants you to believe. We are looking into the warm, living body of Sky Woman herself. And so we give thanks to her, as it is she who has given us spirit.
Y como siempre empezamos con cuando vemos hacia el cielo en la noche y vemos todas las estrellas, todos esos cuerpos vivientes. No es un espacio vacío y sin vida, sino que es el cuerpo de la mujer cielo que nos da nuestro espíritu y por eso le agradecemos.
From there, we give our thanks to the beating heart of our Mother Earth, to our grandmother Moon. It is she who regulates the flow of the lifeblood in all things. And so we give thanks to her, our grandmother Moon, as it is she who has given us blood.
Y después le damos las gracias a nuestra abuela Luna, quien es el corazón latiente, palpitante de nuestra madre tierra, quien nos da nuestras aguas, nuestra sangre, y por eso le agradecemos.
From there, we give our thanks to our Mother Earth, regardless of where you have grown out of our Mother Earth, regardless of what language you speak, what color you are, if you are life giver or life protector, regardless of what you imagine divides us, we are all born of the same mother. And this, of course, makes us one great family. And so we give thanks to our Mother Earth for giving us this life, this beautiful life. And we identify that we are to, of course, cherish this life. We are to honor what she has given us. And so we give thanks to her, our Mother Earth, for it is she who has given us body.
Y después le damos las gracias a nuestra Madre Tierra, quien nos da nuestro cuerpo, de nosotras y de todas las cosas vivientes. Y por supuesto que como es ella quien nos da nuestra vida, estamos aquí para honrar esa vida, para amar esa vida.
From there, we give our thanks to all the women, from the newest born baby girl to the eldest grandmother, as they carry the sacred title of life giver into the world and are to be honored and respected as such. We give thanks to them, for in this world, the life givers, the mothers, give us our identity, show us how to be. If the mother is a wolf, it's the mother wolf that teaches the baby wolves how to be wolves. If we are elephants, it's the mother elephant that teaches us how to be elephants. And so we give thanks to all the mothers in all strains of life, for in this world, they give us purpose and direction.
Y después le damos las gracias a todas las dadoras de vida, a todas las madres, desde las más pequeñitas, recién nacidas, hasta la más ancianita de las abuelitas, porque son ellas las madres de nuestras naciones. Son ellas quienes nos dan nuestro objetivo y nuestra dirección en el mundo. Y Esto es no solamente para las madres humanas, sino para todas las especies de la vida. Y si es una elefanta, es la mamá elefanta la que va a enseñarle a los pequeñines cómo ser elefantes. Si es una mamá lobo, es ella quien le va a enseñar a los lobitos cómo ser lobos. Y entonces le damos las gracias a todas las dadoras de vida en todas las hebras diferentes de la vida.
From there, we give our thanks to all the waters in all the shapes and forms they come in. And we must remind ourselves constantly that water is not only the medicine that we drink, water is not only what flows in the streams and rivers or what falls out of the sky. Water comes in many different shapes and forms. And this is what we are to do. We are to familiarize ourselves with this reality so that we can understand all the different levels on which we exist on where we function. And so we give thanks to all the waters and all the shapes and forms they come in.
Y después damos las gracias a todas las aguas, en todas las formas en las que se presenta a nosotros. Y muchas veces no estamos conscientes de que el agua toma muchas formas y que se encuentra presente en todos lados. Entonces les agradecemos a cada una de ellas para que estemos cada vez más conscientes de todas estas formas en las que ellas se manifiestan.
Just to expand on that a little right now for us to wrap our minds around, the full spectrum of the shapes and forms that water come in.
Y para expandir un poco más sobre en todas las formas en las que el agua se presenta.
This is easy for us to understand. Liquid water, which we all drink and which we all need to survive.
Esta es fácil que la entendamos, es el agua líquida que todos necesitamos para vivir y sostenernos.
But to familiarize ourselves with the fact of that all of us, wherever you are on our Mother Earth, you are breathing in water. Air, oxygen is water.
Y quien sea que se encuentre sobre nuestra madre tierra respira oxígeno y el oxígeno es una forma de agua también.
So if you look at, say, if you create a scale of all the shapes and forms water come in and you put liquid water on one end of the scale where we can comprehend, where everybody knows and understands what water is. So we put that on one end of the spectrum.
Entonces, si ponemos el agua líquida en una parte del espectro en el cual toda la gente puede comprender lo que es el agua.
So on one end of the spectrum of all the shapes and forms that water come in is actual water.
Entonces, el agua líquida como la conocemos se encuentra en ese lado del espectro.
But on the other end of the spectrum is something that we will not even associate with as being water.
Pero en el otro lado del espectro hay algo que ni siquiera vamos a asociar a ser agua.
And this is something that we're going to expand on as we talk today about the important things about the different calendars, the different events that are happening within the waterverse.
Y esto es algo en lo que vamos a expandirnos cuando hablemos de los distintos calendarios y los eventos ocurriendo en el aguaverso.
But this week something happened on the galactic level within our solar system, that the conjunction of the two largest planets, which prompted Mount Kilauea in so-called Hawaii to erupt.
Y vamos a hacer la asociación de este gran evento que ocurrió en el aguaverso de la conjunción entre Júpiter y Saturno y cómo eso provocó la erupción de un volcán en Hawái, por ejemplo.
So what is coming out of that volcano is water. It is liquid molten lava.
Y lo que sale de ese volcán es justamente lava.
So on one end of the spectrum of what we know, all the shapes and forms of water is actual water. On the other end of the spectrum is something that you wouldn't even associate with being water, is the molten lava of what's coming out of Mount Kilauea.
Que es una forma de agua. Entonces, de un lado del espectro tienen el agua líquida que se conoce como tal y del otro lado del espectro tienen a esta lava que nunca se asociaría como agua.
Now, we'll expand on that later.
Y vamos a expandir sobre eso más tarde.
But from there, we give our thanks to all the medicines and all the shapes and forms that they come in.
Y de ahí le damos las gracias a todas las medicinas en todas las formas en las que se presentan.
And again, just to remind ourselves that we are medicines to each other. So medicine is not just something that comes in a pill or a liquid or something you may inhale, a vapor or something like that. No, medicine is living people.
Y para recordar que, bueno, después le damos las gracias a las medicinas y para recordar que las medicinas no es solamente algo físico como una hierba o como una raíz, sino que la gente son medicinas.
And of course, how that medicine works is based on interaction, communication.
Y cómo trabaja esa medicina es basado en la interacción, en la comunicación.
And that medicine is knowledge, it's love, it's the things that humans do for each other to make each other happy, to give each other happiness, pleasure, give each other peace of mind, stability. This is the medicines that comes from humans.
Y esa es la medicina del amor, de hacer algo por el otro, de hacer algo que va a hacer feliz al otro. Esas son las cosas las que hacen los humanos para tener la estabilidad con los otros.
So humans, imagine if you walked into a pharmacy and you needed a medicine to help you with your mental stability, with your emotion, with your love. And you're walking and you're looking through the aisles and on the shelf, you see humans there.
Entonces imaginen que entran a la farmacia y que están buscando una medicina que les pueda ayudar para su estabilidad emocional, mental. Entonces entran a la farmacia y ven humanos ahí.
And so you'll think, well, how do I utilize these humans for the medicine that I need?
Y la pregunta sería, ¿y cómo utilizo a estos humanos para la medicina que necesito?
Of course, it's through proper interaction because a human holding all the medicine that they hold that medicine like as if they are like a combination lock. You have to know the proper combination to get that medicine out of that person.
Porque los humanos funcionan como si fuera una especie de combinación. Es como decir que se tiene que tener la combinación exacta para que pueda salir esa buena medicina.
So the medicine that the humans have to offer, you might think, okay, there's a human and well, we can get medicine from them, and just think that you go there and grab the medicine.
Y la medicina que los humanos tienen, puede que ustedes piensen que vean un humano y pueden nada más tomar la medicina.
But no, that medicine, the medicine of humans, needs to be massaged out of the human.
Pero no es así, sino que la medicina del humano tiene que ser masajeada del humano.
Now, we're not talking about a actual physical massage where you're going to rub somebody's muscles and stuff like that.
Y no estamos hablando de un masaje literalmente, como si vamos a agarrar los músculos de alguien.
How you massage the medicine out of a human is through respect.
Cómo se masajea la medicina de los humanos es mediante el respeto.
It is through showing them your humanity, showing them your love, your respect for them, showing them that you care not just for that human, but you care for that human in the environment in which they have grown from. So it's a package deal for that human.
Es enseñándoles el respeto hacia ese humano y no solamente el humano como persona, sino el humano en el ambiente del cual ellos han crecido. Entonces es como un paquete entero de respeto hacia ese humano.
So for those who have been with us, and there's only a few here right now, but those who have been with us now for 41 ceremonies, this is our 41st or 42nd? 41st ceremony.
Y para quienes han estado con nosotros en las últimas 40 ceremonias, porque hoy estamos en la 41ª.
No, it doesn't matter if you're with us or if you just happen to watch this at some point in the future.
Y no importa si acaban de ver, están viendo esto ahorita o la van a ver en un futuro.
This process of reconstituting is a joint reciprocal effort.
Este proceso de reconstitución es un esfuerzo conjunto y recíproco.
Where in order to make myself strong, I do not focus on myself. I focus on you, the other.
en donde para hacerme fuerte a mí mismo no me enfoco en mí, sino que me enfoco en ustedes, en el otro.
And this in turn I will prosper from that. I will benefit by all the power, all the energy that is released from you when you are in your ideal conditions.
Y a su vez yo me voy a beneficiar del hecho de que ustedes, cuando están en sus condiciones ideales, liberen todo ese poder que ustedes son capaces de tener.
And so if we look just to the last ceremony that we had, which is 2 weeks ago, just to that one, or you can look at all of them all the way through. That's over 250 hours we got. But you look at all of them all the way through, this is the reciprocal relationship we are having. We are massaging each other's brains, massaging the traumas out of us by addressing them. And through removing those things, then the true being is what is left there. And from that true being, then will be released their knowledge, their power, their medicine.
Y lo que hemos estado haciendo, por ejemplo, hace 2 semanas podemos ir a ver la última ceremonia y así todas las ceremonias tenemos más o menos 250 horas aproximadamente. Y en todo ese tiempo lo que hemos estado haciendo es eso, masajear el espíritu, la mente de la otra persona para que quitemos todos los traumas, todas las cosas que han ocurrido y cuando eso se ha quitado quede solamente el verdadero ser humano y a partir de ahí la verdadera medicina y la verdadera interacción y el verdadero conocimiento puedan surgir.
So if you're only just watching this, if you just observe, you will get, if you've been watching for a while, you will get the benefit of the knowledge that is shared.
Y si ustedes están observando, van a tener el beneficio del conocimiento que es compartido.
But if you are an actual player, an interactive person in this process, then you are functioning on a different level than just someone who is just quite simply merely observing.
Pero si son alguien que está implicado activamente, entonces están en otro nivel del juego. Es distinto que ser simplemente un observador.
The comparisons or the example of this would be if you could imagine a football stadium full of spectators and of course the 2 teams on the field.
Y las comparaciones o el ejemplo sería un estadio de fútbol que está lleno de espectadores y los jugadores en el campo.
If you're in the last seat in the bleachers, you can see what's going on, but in all actuality, even if you were yelling, hey, do this or do that, the people on the field would not even be able to hear you. So your observance in the process is limited to that observance, but you have varying degrees of which you have access to.
Y si ustedes estuvieran hasta arriba, en los asientos más lejos, por mucho que le gritaran a los jugadores, ay, muévete para acá, haz esto, de nada serviría porque ni siquiera les escucharían. Entonces depende de dónde estén ustedes para tener acceso a ese juego.
Now, if you're sitting right in the bleachers, right at the bottom, the first seat there near the playing field, there the players would be able to hear you. So you might yell, hey, watch out behind you. And somebody on the field might actually be able to look behind them. And you might actually influence the outcome of that game.
Porque si ustedes estuviesen sentados hasta el frente y que son capaces de decirle algo a un jugador y, por ejemplo, decir, ay, mira hacia atrás y el jugador los escucha y puede voltear hacia atrás, ustedes puede que estén realmente influenciando lo que ocurre en el juego.
So you could be a spectator in the audience, or you could be on the field.
Entonces podrían ser un espectador en la audiencia o un jugador en el campo.
And of course, once you're on the field, well, the perspective will be much different than the person who's way up in the bleachers or the person who's right there next to the field.
Y por supuesto, si están en el campo, la perspectiva va a ser mucho distinta de si están en la fila del frente y mucho más si están en la fila de hasta el fondo.
If you are that person sitting in the bleachers right next to the field and you yell and the person hears you and it actually affects the game, well, you might feel good. But there's a possibility that they wouldn't hear you and you wouldn't affect the game. And therefore, all your efforts of, hey, do this or do that, would possibly just be in vain and wouldn't actually benefit you. You would be subjected to the outcome.
E inclusive si estuviesen sentados en primera fila, a pesar de que gritaran, tal vez los jugadores no les escucharían, entonces no podrían tener su efecto deseado.
But if you're playing on the field, whatever that other person was yelling about, saying, hey, watch out behind you, you on the field could actually could actually do something about it. So being a player, actually participating, changes your ability to affect things, but it also changes your state of emotion in as far as connected to that particular game.
Entonces, si ustedes son un jugador que puede escuchar a la persona que les está diciendo algo desde la primera fila, ustedes pueden estar conscientes de su alrededor y por lo tanto dejar que algo afecte, es decir, ustedes ser la vía consciente de afectar y cambiar el juego.
Or if you're just a person observing and you can't affect the way that you want, you might be sitting there yelling, yeah, but feel know that you haven't affected in any way. You would feel, what's the word? I had it on the tip of my tongue. I can't think of the word now. Powerless. Yeah, powerless. Frustrated. That's the word I'm looking for.
Porque si ustedes están diciendo algo y sentados en primera fila no les escuchan, puede que se sientan frustrados.
So, as you all know, frustration, the feeling of frustration, that changes everything in your daily existence.
Y como lo saben bien, el sentimiento de frustración cambia absolutamente todo en su existencia cotidiana.
So this is just to identify in a very condensed way is that the frustration that everybody on earth is feeling right now is actually something that they themselves are the cause of.
Y es para identificar que toda la frustración que la gente está sintiendo en la Tierra el día de hoy es algo que ellos mismos han creado.
Because they are quite simply not participating, taking an active role in affecting, putting their power out into the world. Everybody is just introverting right now and thinking about how helpless they feel and what's going on in the world that they can't do anything about it. That's frustration.
Porque no están haciendo ninguna acción que pueda ser efectiva para hacer el cambio que desean ver en el mundo. Hoy todo el mundo se está introvertiendo y sintiéndose completamente desamparados ante lo que está ocurriendo.
So we give thanks to our ancestors who carried the good mind, and we ask them to help us return our mothers back to power so they can manage all our people properly once again. When this happens, everybody will have access to their power. You will be able to affect your power into the world, and there will be no frustration.
Y entonces le damos las gracias al espíritu, al buen espíritu de nuestros ancestros, para que nos ayuden a llevar a cabo las acciones necesarias que queremos poner en el mundo, y de esa forma no va a haber frustración.
So taking action is the cure or the solution to the feeling of frustration.
Entonces, hacer una acción es la cura al sentimiento de frustración.
And so we give our thanks to our ancestors for, and we ask them to help us to return the true spirit of peace, power, and righteousness, the true spirit of Gayandawana, the result, the balance, which is the result of having the good mind.
Y le damos las gracias a nuestros ancestros y les pedimos que nos ayuden a traer de vuelta el Gayandawana, que es el equilibrio entre nuestro espíritu, que es el resultado del buen espíritu, el buen pensamiento.
So we are to understand that when we ask our ancestors to carry the good mind to help us, we are first asking those that created us, meaning our mothers and fathers, our grandmothers and grandfathers, our great grandmothers, great grandfathers, and all the way back till you get right to the twins themselves, and even beyond till you get to Sky Woman herself.
Y cuando hablamos de nuestros ancestros, hablamos directamente de quienes nos han creado. Entonces hablamos primero de nuestras madres y nuestros padres, de sus madres, padres de ellos, y así hasta los gemelos y hasta la mujer cielo, ella misma.
When a person does this, they center themselves in the world.
Y cuando una persona hace eso, se centran en el mundo.
Because you are connecting yourself to your ancestry.
Porque se están conectando a sí mismos con sus ancestros.
Now, for the original people of Turtle Island, when we connect ourselves to our ancestry, we know that we are connecting ourselves to purity, to balanced people who lived in harmony with creation.
Y para la gente de los pueblos originarios de la isla de la Tortuga, cuando nos conectamos con nuestros ancestros, sabemos que nos estamos conectando con pureza, con la forma original de la identidad de hacer las cosas.
Now, in comparisons, when we think of the non-native world.
Y en comparación, cuando pensamos en el mundo no indígena.
Now, when we look in that world over just the past 500 years, we see only corruption.
Cuando vemos los últimos 500 años y vemos corrupción solamente.
When you look back further into their own history, you can go back a maximum about 2,500 years. You can't go back any further than that with them. That seems to be their history. But when you go back that far, you see, again, still non-stop, male-dominant, warring corruption.
Cuando van más allá en su historia, que puede ser a lo más 2,500 años, todo es una continuación de corrupción y de guerra.
So what was said about when you call upon your ancestors to carry the good mind, how it puts you in balance in this world? You, through this example of the non-native world, you can think that, well, that's not possible then, because it's just corruption, corruption, corruption.
Y si hablamos de los ancestros que portaban el buen espíritu y les pedimos que nos ayuden y ustedes son no indígenas, puede que piensen que no es posible porque solamente hay una continuidad de corrupción.
How you have to deal with this is the same way as if you ever had a nightmare. You ever had a bad dream? You wake up in the morning, like maybe when you were a kid. When you're an adult, it really wouldn't apply. When you're a kid, you wake up, you have a bad dream, maybe in some cases even crying. You know that dream, no matter what, it's there. The way to get over that dream is to forget about it.
Es un poco como cuando ustedes son niños y que tienen una pesadilla y que a lo mejor hasta se levantan llorando. Y realmente el ejemplo es para niños porque no aplica para adultos. Y cuando se levantan y están llorando, la solución para la pesadilla es olvidarlo.
So when we're talking about the non-native people, in order to reconnect with their ancestry that carried the good mind, well, you might not be able to do that from within the time frame that you know is your history. You can't seem, the non-native people can't seem to remember their history, they have none, beyond 2,500 years ago, 3,000 years ago.
Y cuando hablamos del no indígena, muchas veces no pueden ver más allá, tal vez de unos 200 o hasta 300 años.
So if this is all you can remember, but it is all just a one-stop nightmare, a non-stop nightmare.
Y si eso es todo lo que pueden recordar, pero que es una pesadilla constante,
then what you're remembering is corruption.
Entonces lo que recuerdan es corrupción.
And so if you're calling upon your ancestors from within that time, the only thing you're going to get is corruption.
Y si hacen llamado a sus ancestros dentro de este tiempo, lo único que van a obtener es corrupción.
So this is what in the non-native world, what everybody has to do, all 7 billion people.
Y entonces lo que los 7,000 millones de personas en el mundo no indígena tendrían que hacer,
you have to forget about your corrupted history.
Es olvidar su historia corrupta.
All the wars, all the killing, all the murder, all the chaos, all the disease, all the famine. These are the things that you celebrate on a daily basis.
Todas las guerras, toda la corrupción, todo eso es lo que ustedes celebran en una base cotidiana.
So if you're celebrating those things, you're never going to forget about it, which means the nightmare that you have awoken from but stays with you and made you cry, it's going to stay with you permanently forever.
Y si lo están celebrando, significa que no lo pueden olvidar. Y si no pueden olvidar ese monstruo en el cual soñaron y que fue la pesadilla que les hizo despertar, pues van a seguir teniendo esa misma pesadilla.
The example in that is how in the non-native world, the entire society honors war. You keep reminding yourselves about a war that took place over 100 years ago that none of you know about, none of you know the reason why it happened, but you keep celebrating it, so you keep the nightmare alive. It's not a nightmare. It is actually a daymare. It is your life mare.
Y como la sociedad no indígena sigue celebrando todas las cosas que tienen que ver con guerra, ya ni siquiera se puede llamar eso pesadilla, sino que es la base de la vida cotidiana.
Again, now, if you want to go see whatever psychologist, psychiatrist, or whoever you might see about this, who you're having nightmares, all they would tell you is that, well, the nightmare, you had it. There's no way to erase it. So the only thing to do is for you to stop thinking about it.
Y si fuesen a ver a un psicólogo, un psiquiatra para ver cómo detener esta pesadilla, les diría que si ya la tuvieron no hay forma de borrarla, pero entonces lo único que queda hacer es olvidarla.
So this is the directive to the non-native world that is shown to us through the great cycle that is just in the verge of completing.
Y esta es la gran dinámica que se nos manifiesta con respecto al no indígena en este gran ciclo que está a punto de ser concluido.
That for all the non-native people in the world, this means everybody who is not of the bloodlines of Turtle Island. It means white, black, yellow, brown, all peoples of the world who have come here in the corruption of colonization.
Y cuando hablamos de no indígena, significa todos aquellos que no vienen de las líneas de sangre de los pueblos originarios de aquí, es decir, el pueblo blanco, negro, amarillo, rojo, café.
What you have to do this year is you have to start your separation from all of your corruptions, all of your ancestral corruptions.
Lo que tienen que hacer este año es iniciar la separación de todas sus corrupciones ancestrales.
You have to forget about it.
Tienen que olvidarlas.
If you do not forget about it, you will bring that war and that corruption with you throughout time.
Y si no las olvidan, van a traer esta guerra y esta corrupción con ustedes a lo largo del tiempo.
And in this fashion, through that behavior, you will be unable to awaken from your nightmare.
Y de esta forma, con tal comportamiento, van a ser incapaces de despertarse de la pesadilla.
And the fact is that the non-native world, it's impossible for you to know. You just cannot know. You do not know how to separate yourself from all the corruptions that you have been a part of throughout time.
Y el mundo no indígena no sabe cómo separarse de todas las corrupciones a las cuales ha estado atado durante todo este tiempo.
And so the great cycles that are turning, it's like you could imagine like in a transmission in a car. All those gears turning are for the purpose of shifting from one gear into the next. We are now in high gear. All of creation is moving at a very fast rate right now.
Y es un poco como el ejemplo de la transmisión en un carro que tiene todas las condiciones necesarias para ir a la más alta velocidad. Ahorita la creación se encuentra en la velocidad más alta.
And as we move into this time, it is a house. We are moving into a house of peace now.
Y mientras nos movemos en esta transición, vamos hacia una casa de paz.
This is the time of the five, where the five houses come together.
Y este es el tiempo de las 5, en el que las 5 casas vienen juntas.
And any of you who remember just, I think last month, we put a riddle out there for you. Any of you who remember that 5 makes 6?
Y quien recuerde, hace más o menos un mes pusimos una adivinanza, y quien recuerde, de esos 5 se hacen 6.
And in return, 6 gives us 5.
Y de vuelta, 6 nos da 5.
So what that is a communication.
Y lo que eso significa es una comunicación.
The communication that is initiated is said 5.
La comunicación que es iniciada, que dice 5.
The one that responds confirms it and identifies, yes, 5 is 6.
Y la que recibe confirma y dice sí, 5 es 6.
And then when that gets sent back, it is confirmed to the original message that went out as being 5. It is confirmed as 5.
Y cuando eso es enviado de vuelta al mensaje original, es confirmado que son 5.
Now, anybody who doesn't have the necessary background to understand this, you won't know what the hell I just said.
Y quien no tenga el conocimiento necesario para poder entender lo que acaba de decir dicho, no van a poder saber lo que acabo de decir.
And it's designed that way.
Y está diseñado así.
Because like was said earlier, it's a combination that we must open.
Porque como fue dicho, es una combinación que debemos abrir.
And you can't open it if you don't have the necessary background or the necessary knowledge.
Y no la pueden abrir si no tienen el conocimiento necesario.
And so most people will not understand anything of what was just said about 5 being 6 and 6 being 5.
Y entonces la mayoría de la gente no va a entender lo que significa que 5 son 6 y de 6 son 5.
This is a riddle.
Es una adivinanza.
And of course, only a person who has certain knowledge will be able to decipher that riddle.
Y por supuesto, solo una persona que tiene cierto conocimiento va a poder descifrar esa adivinanza.
And this is the purpose of the reconstitution of the original peoples within the territory of the Condor and the original peoples within the territory of the Eagle, to bring our collective knowledge back into the center, where we can then sort it out and decipher it amongst us who have the keys.
Y este es el objetivo de este proceso de reconstitución entre los pueblos originarios del Cóndor y los pueblos originarios del Águila, de poder ver la información y abrir lo que es necesario con las llaves adecuadas.
And so we ended up identifying of our ancestors to help us to return peace, power, and righteousness to the people, to return the Gayandawana, the balance, which gives way to peace in your everyday life.
Y entonces terminamos diciendo a nuestros ancestros que nos ayuden a traer el equilibrio que va a ser capaz de dar la paz en cada aspecto de la vida.
And so we're very lucky. We give thanks that we are now 41 ceremonies into this process.
Y somos muy afortunados de que estamos en 41 ceremonias en este proceso.
Given that each ceremony has been a minimum or an average, I'd say, of 5-6 hours.
Y dado que cada ceremonia ha sido un promedio entre 5 y 6 horas,
Let's say it's 5 hours each one.
digamos que son 5 horas cada una.
That would be 5 times, what did I just say? 5 hours times 41.
Yeah.
That would be roughly 240 hours, 250 hours, something like that, of which we have been in this ceremony now.
Eso sería unas 240 horas aproximadamente.
And in that time, there has been a lot of knowledge shared.
Y en ese tiempo ha habido mucho conocimiento compartido.
And I'm not talking from us.
Y no estoy hablando de nuestra parte.
I'm talking about all the participants from the different nations who have brought different aspects of their ceremony to the table.
sino todos los participantes de todas las diferentes naciones que han traído una parte de su ceremonia a la mesa.
Through this process, we were able, through deciphering great law of peace, we are able to see different connections to all the peoples in the different ceremonies that each of us hold.
Y mediante este proceso fuimos capaces de ver diferentes llaves de estas distintas ceremonias que cada uno tiene.
Part of this process, sometimes it jumps out of the screen, out of these little squares that we see ourselves in. Sometimes it jumps out of that and comes into reality.
Y a veces este proceso sale de los cuadraditos en los que nos encontramos y entra a la realidad.
It culminated in a couple of years ago with us meeting some, I can't even remember now which people, but the ones that gave us the song for the squirrels, to keep the squirrels away, the Nawa. We met them at a conference here in Montreal. Anyways, as a result of that, we had face-to-face interaction in which they actually were able to share with us a song for the garden to keep a song to keep the squirrels out of the garden.
Y así, hace un par de años, encontramos a gente de la nación Nahua que nos compartieron una canción para mantener las ardillas fuera del jardín para que no se coman el maíz, porque compartimos ceremonia con ellos.
And as crazy as it sounds, the first time we heard about this, we put it into action in our garden, and it kept, well, we can say that year, there was no squirrels in our garden. Every other year, squirrels are crazy.
Y tan loco como pueda sonar, en cuanto nos dan esta canción, la aplicamos en ceremonia en el jardín y ese año no hubo ardillas, siendo que todos los años había ardillas.
Now, last week, or 2 weeks ago, the last time we were together, there was also information that was shared with us.
Y la semana pasada también hubo información que nos fue compartida.
Now, I can't even remember who. Maybe some of you, if you remember, you can remind me. But one of the people that were present to talk about the calendars actually identified to us about when the solstice comes, that the sun actually stays there for 4 more days until what they identify, until the sun starts to walk back.
Y
To the left, yeah.
una de las personas que vino a hablar del calendario nos dijo una información acerca del solsticio de invierno, que cuando el solsticio de invierno comienza, va a salir el sol en la misma posición durante los 4 días siguientes, hasta que el sol comienza a caminar de vuelta hacia la izquierda.
Now, I don't know about anybody else, but what does it mean to anybody that the sun is there from the time of the solstice, that it's there for another 4 days, which makes 5, that the sun starts to walk back to the left? What does this mean to anybody? How does anybody understand that?
¿Y qué significa que después de 4 días de que el sol esté en la misma posición, se empieza a mover hacia la izquierda?
Now here, the few of you that are gathered here, you have a pretty good idea of what that means.
Aquí, quienes se encuentran reunidos tienen una buena idea de lo que es.
But anybody else, you take any Tom, Dick, or Harry off of the street and you say that to them, they are not going to understand a damn thing of what you're speaking of.
Pero si ustedes le dicen eso a alguien que se encuentren en la calle, lo más seguro es que no les entendería.
But we're going to do a little exercise since there's only a few of us here anyways.
Pero vamos a hacer un pequeño ejercicio, puesto que somos unos cuantos el día de hoy.
Is there anybody here?
There's Susan.
Participant Susan is here with us. Okay, but there is no one else then who are actual participants in this. So we'll take the time to go through the people that are here.
Y si no hay participantes del sur, vamos a tomar el tiempo para hacerlo con la gente que está aquí.
Now, just from what you know, right off the top of your head, Don't go searching in your books for previous information or whatever. Just go off the top of your head.
De lo que saben, sin irlo a buscar en libros, sino de lo que les venga a la cabeza.
What are the connections that you make? Not that you have to understand it, but what are the parallel connections you can make just by hearing? When the sun reaches its winter solstice point, that from there it stays there for another 4 days and starts to walk back to the left.
¿Qué asociaciones hacen ustedes si se les dice que el sol empieza en el solsticio de invierno y se queda ahí 4 días y después vuelve a caminar hacia la izquierda?
So if there's anybody who wants to, then let's just manage this. So you don't have to say anything if you don't want. This is like kind of like a little, I guess you could say like a pop quiz.
Entonces no necesitan decir algo, más bien si ustedes gustan decir algo, sería como una especie de trivia.
And the purpose is really just to compare where your mind was, say, a year ago, and where it is now in relation to knowledge.
Y el objetivo es comparar en dónde se encontraba su mente hace un año con lo que se encuentra el día de hoy en relación al conocimiento.
So if there's anybody who wants to address that.
Y si hay alguien que quiera decir algo, so if you would like, just raise your hand on the Zoom function and that will give you like the speaking word. Si quieren decir algo, nada más levantar su mano en la función del Zoom y así vamos a poderles dar la palabra.
I could go, but I have to go there.
Go on then.
Oh, there's Susan and there's Harold that raised their hands.
Okay, well, we'll start here then, and then we'll go to Susan.
Vamos a comenzar aquí y luego vamos con Susan.
Hello, my name is Marie-Claude. I am the great-granddaughter of Marie-Louise, the granddaughter of Yvette, and the daughter of Francine.
Marie-Claude se presenta en la forma matrilineal.
And I act as a temporary bear clan in the Life Givers Nation.
Y es parte representante temporal del clan del oso en la nación de dadoras de vida.
And what comes to mind is the time of, since we arrive at the end of a cycle and we will start another one, since there is like a sort of a suspension, it tells me that it's time to think about what happened, the whole cycle, and then to prepare for the next one. So a time of reassessment, basically.
Y lo que le dice es que es un tiempo de que cuando un ciclo se termina, por lo tanto va a venir otro ciclo, es un tiempo de reflexión, de determinación de qué fue lo que ocurrió y básicamente cómo moverse hacia el otro ciclo. Thank you, Marie. So now we are going to go to Susan. Susan, go ahead. Ahora vamos a ir con Susan. Es tu turno. You would just have to unmute, Susan, if we don't see if you're saying something. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
Okay. My name is Susan Reese Mashike. I'm the daughter of Lillian, who carries the family name Mashike and the clan Mashike, which is turtle. What comes to my mind with the question is going home. And this week, I'm in the process of getting a copy of my family tree. I had a hard time 2 weeks ago to try to get it. I had to have our lawyer actually tell me what to do. So it's also going back home. It's not a real profound message if you want to really think about it. It's simply going home. That's what it means to me.
Y Susan se presenta de forma matrilineal también y nos indica que para ella significa literalmente irse a casa. Y está coincidiendo que en estos días ella está haciendo lo necesario para conseguir su árbol genealógico y en pocas palabras es eso que significa ir a casa. Thank you, Susan. Gracias, Susan. Was there anybody else that wanted to say something? Yeah, but I don't see his hand anymore, so I don't know if you know.
Yes, no, go. I don't know if I'm next. Um,
Yeah.
But I'll introduce myself. My name is Harold, the son of Gail, Gloria, and Francis.
Y Harold se presenta de forma matrilineal también.
And I'm currently under temporary protection of the Bear Clan of the Five Nations Longhouse Confederacy.
Y se encuentra bajo la protección temporal del clan del oso de las 5 naciones.
And now we'll go for this council today. And what first comes to my mind is similar to what came to Mary Claude's mind, Nemontemi.
Y lo que viene a mi espíritu, un poco en el sentido de lo que Marie-Claude mencionó, es el Nemontemi. Nemontemi.
So the similar thing that Marie Claude mentioned about the 5 days either in or out of time.
Que es en relación a los 5 días, ya sea hacia o del tiempo.
But I also think of how that relates to the turtle's back and the 5 steps.
Y también pienso en el caparazón de la tortuga y los 5 pasos.
And I guess one of the twins goes left.
Y uno de los gemelos va hacia la izquierda.
Other things that come to mind, it goes along with these idea of balance. Gayandawana.
Y otras cosas que vienen a mi espíritu tienen que ver con el equilibrio, el Gayandawana.
And being able to name how this is achieved around us.
Y saber cómo se alcanza alrededor de nosotros.
But yes, I'll leave it there. Thank you, Condor.
Voy a dejarlo ahí.
Mhm. Was there anybody else, or was it?
Not that nobody raised their hand.
Okay. Yeah, there are all these things that you pieced together, each of you. Well, like Susan's saying that, well, I forget the word you use, but like it's not such a significant thing. Returning home? What could be more significant than that?
Y cada uno de los que ustedes hablaron pusieron las cosas juntas y como lo que dice Susan acerca de algo no tan significativo que sería volver a casa, bueno, ¿qué sería más significativo que eso?
In the expanse of the big cycle, to return home would mean that everything that you experienced out there, no matter how good or how bad or whatever, just like you when you go on a vacation, even if it's the place that you want to go to the most, maybe 2 or 3 days into your vacation, you've already had enough. You already can't wait to go home. You'll still be there, still be enjoying it, but everybody is drawn back to home. So in the big expanse of the cycle, to return home means to have all of that experience to be reconciled, for you to process it, for you to determine what is the garbage to be thrown out, what is the good to be saved. And then this is where this is basically on the big scale, it's another rung added to the DNA so that we can keep climbing.
Es entonces un poco como si se imaginan todo el ciclo de 25,000, 26,000 años y estamos llegando al final que es volver a casa, entonces todo lo que fue vivido es evaluado para saber qué es lo que tiene que ser dejado atrás y qué es lo bueno que se puede traer de vuelta. Es un poco como cuando van de vacaciones, después de 2 o 3 días ya se quieren regresar a casa porque siempre va a haber un llamado de vuelta a casa.
As what Harold points out about the 5 squares on the turtle's back, that yes, this is symbolized in these 5 days.
Y lo que Harold mencionó acerca de los 5 pasos en el caparazón de la tortuga es en relación a los 5 días.
From the way that the interaction that I have had with the different peoples concerning the calendars.
Y de la interacción que he tenido con las distintas personas respecto a los calendarios,
I can deduce that when it was shared with us last week about the from the time of the solstice and that it's 4 days after that starts to walk back, I can deduce that right then and there by my response that they did not see it as the 5 days, as 5 steps. They only seen it as 4.
Y puedo deducir que cuando ellos compartieron el conocimiento de los 4 días, no pudieron ver los 5 días fuera del tiempo, porque esos 4 hacen 5.
So for me, what is coming to light, especially since the solstice ceremony,
Y para mí lo que viene a la luz, especialmente después de la ceremonia del solsticio de invierno,
is that there is more to the turtle, more embedded in it, more knowledge inside of it than what we are aware of right now. We are going to discover something huge coming out of the back of the turtle.
es que hay un conocimiento aún escondido que va a venir y ser revelado con respecto al caparazón de la tortuga.
And to me, I mean, to anybody else, this might not mean anything.
Y tal vez puede que no signifique gran cosa,
But as you know, wait, I gotta grab that other turtle rabbit.
pero como saben, voy a ir a agarrar el otro.
As you have seen before, it was exposed to you about how on the turtle's back that you could see where the twins are.
Y como han visto que los gemelos se encuentran en el caparazón de la tortuga
And that the twins, again, come from the 1.
y que los gemelos vienen del 1.
So again, 1 giving birth to the 2 makes 3.
Entonces, el primero que da vida a los otros 2 hace 3.
And then those 2 from the 3 take 4 more steps to complete the 5.
Y esos 2 de los 3 toman 4 pasos para completar los 5.
And then those 2 going the other way, the remainder to complete the cycle, to come back around to square 1.
Y ambos van de su propio lado para completar el ciclo y volver hacia el punto de partida.
Places us again right back at square 1, right there on the turtle's back.
Nos hace volver al punto de partida.
But it's not, as we are going in the shape or form of DNA, it's not that it comes right back to the same spot.
Y mientras vamos en la forma del ADN, no es que vuelva al mismo lugar,
It comes back to the same spot, but right on top of it.
viene al mismo lugar, pero encima.
And so what is going to be revealed, something will be revealed to us of this process.
Y algo se nos va a revelar con respecto a este proceso.
3 of these being together is completing the combination.
3 estando juntos es lo que completa la combinación.
It is past, present, and future generations.
Es el pasado, el presente y las generaciones futuras.
And the future, of course, where we're going.
Y el futuro, por supuesto, hacia donde vamos.
The past identifying, of course, where we came from.
El pasado identificando de dónde venimos.
And the present revealing to us our connection to the past and the present.
Y el presente identificando la conexión al pasado y al futuro.
And this is where myself, I draw this conclusion as I am the one that utilizes these turtle rattles in the ceremonial process.
Y soy yo quien saca esta conclusión gracias al hecho de utilizar estas sonajas en el proceso ceremonial.
So, just by mere virtue of me using those rattles gives me a familiarity with them.
Y el hecho de que yo utilice estas sonajas me da una familiaridad.
And from that familiarity, I conclude something that my rattles are showing me.
Y de ahí yo concluyo algo que las sonajas me muestran.
And that is that something is getting ready to emerge
Y es que algo está listo para emergir
out of the turtle's back.
del caparazón de la tortuga.
Right here. In my rattle, it's already been poking through.
Que aquí en mi sonaja ya está empezando a salir.
Now, for me, I conclude that from the time that this was shared to us last week about the solstice being here, and then 4 days after, when the sun starts to walk back,
Y yo concluyo de lo que se nos dijo de que el solsticio empieza y luego hay 4 días antes de que el sol vuelva a caminar.
through having this interaction, it affected us to change our winter solstice ceremony.
Teniendo esa interacción nos afectó para cambiar nuestra ceremonia del solsticio.
We were able to conclude that in the past, not that we were doing it wrong, but we just weren't doing it completely right enough for us.
Y fuimos capaces de concluir que en el pasado no lo estábamos haciendo de forma suficiente.
Because us, like everybody else, celebrated the winter solstice right in daytime.
Porque todo mundo celebra, y nosotros también, el solsticio en el mediodía.
Now, for us, we've concluded that would be the same as knowing that your airplane is leaving at 12 o'clock, but not knowing that it's 12 o'clock midnight and you get there at 12 o'clock noon.
Y es un poco el equivalente de saber que uno se va en viaje en avión y que tiene que salir a las 12, pero entonces llega a las 12 del día sin saber que es a la medianoche y por lo tanto pierde el avión.
So you know the information, well, on your ticket it says 12 o'clock.
Y ustedes saben que la información es que en su boleto dice las 12,
But if you don't know the cycles, when they begin and end, you don't know when to be there.
pero si no saben en dónde empiezan los ciclos y en dónde terminan, no saben cuándo estar ahí.
So in the past, like was said, we were doing our winter solstice ceremony at high noon in the daytime, just like everybody else.
Y en el pasado hacíamos entonces el solsticio de invierno a mediodía como todo mundo,
This year it changed.
y este año cambió.
Not only did we not do it in the daytime,
No solamente no lo hicimos en el día,
but we also didn't only do it just in that one instance.
sino que no lo hicimos tampoco solamente en ese momento.
What the knowledge that was shared with us of this 5-day period, then it's easy to deduce that you have to have a ceremony at the beginning and at the end of that cycle. When it reaches high noon, and then the 5 days later, when it starts to walk back.
Fue evidente que teníamos que hacer una ceremonia para todo el momento, es decir, cuando se empieza el solsticio y todo el tiempo que permanece y hasta el 5º día que va a volver a caminar.
So this year, we started our winter solstice ceremony on the Sunday night, which was from Sunday, that was the 20th. Most people only waited until the next day at noon. No, it was actually that night.
Y entonces empezamos esa ceremonia en la noche de el día antes del 21.
The thing that gets people confused is that they're thinking from day.
Porque lo que hace que la gente se confunda es que piensan a partir del día.
Now that's fine to be thinking from day if you are in the longest day.
Y está bien si se piensa en términos de día, si están en el día más largo.
But in the wintertime, you're not in the longest day.
Pero en el invierno no es el día más largo,
You're in the shortest day,
sino más corto.
which means something, if the day is short, something else is longer.
Lo que significa que si el día es corto, hay algo que es más largo.
There's only one other thing, that's the night.
Y solamente es una cosa y es la noche.
And so then this is how we were able to determine that when we're looking at the cycle, if you can think of a bicycle wheel.
Y es así como pudimos determinar que si pensamos en términos de ciclo como una rueda de bicicleta, Now Stuart just left to get a bicycle wheel.
Coming with a bicycle wheel.
Ya trae su llanta de bicicleta de vuelta.
So here's the bicycle wheel.
Y ahí está.
Where is the full scope of that wheel?
¿En dónde está la totalidad de esa llanta?
It would be at its outer perimeters.
Sería en su perímetro externo.
So the full scope of this bicycle wheel is from the outside to the outside.
Es decir, de la parte externa de su diámetro, de sus dos puntos más lejanos.
So that would mean where you measure this is from the longest point to the longest point.
Del punto más lejano al punto más lejano.
Now, the shortest point, or the inside of the wheel to the inside of the wheel,
Y el punto más corto del interior de la llanta
that would represent the shortest day
representaría el día más corto
or the shortest night.
o la noche más corta.
It would just represent the shortest perimeter of that scale.
Sería el perímetro más corto de esa escala.
So this goes then from the longest day to the longest night.
Y esto va para el día más corto y la noche más corta.
And this was how we were able to deduce that the winter solstice is about the longest night, not about the day. So the celebration of it, the PowerPoint, is right at the midnight, middle of dusk to dawn, on that longest night.
Y es así como fuimos capaces de deducir que se encuentra el punto de fuerza del solsticio de invierno en la noche más larga, no en el día más corto.
Anyways, for us, when we were gathered and we started the ceremony last Sunday night, it was, I think it was about 12:30-ish when we started.
Y cuando hicimos nuestra ceremonia, que fue en la noche del 20 al 21, alrededor de medianoche,
And in the ceremony, there's no big mystical thing. We're talking about the realities, the scientific facts of it.
y en la ceremonia no hay nada místico, simplemente es hablar de los hechos científicos de lo que está ocurriendo.
Oh, it's really getting bright and sunny here.
Y aquí está saliendo el sol de forma muy brillante.
Where was I? What was I saying?
We spoke in the ceremony.
Okay, what we were speaking of is about what was actually happening at that time.
Y de lo que ocurría en ese tiempo es de lo que hablamos en la ceremonia.
So we know that Jupiter and Saturn was in a conjunction.
Y sabemos que Júpiter y Saturno se encontraban en una conjunción,
Two of the largest planets in our solar system.
dos de los planetas más grandes en el sistema solar,
And the other largest body in our solar system, the sun, was at our back.
y el otro cuerpo grande en nuestro sistema solar, que es el Sol, se encontraba en nuestra espalda.
Those two planets were straight ahead of us.
Y esos dos planetas estaban enfrente de nosotros.
And then right in between those planets is our grandmother moon.
Y entre esos planetas está nuestra abuela Luna.
So we know that our grandmother moon has a constant gravitational force on us.
Y sabemos que nuestra abuela Luna tiene una fuerza gravitacional constante sobre nosotros.
So let's picture this as a tug of war.
A tug.
Tug of war.
Tire à la corde.
Ah, ok. Entonces identificamos esto como el juego de la cuerda, de que ambos equipos jalan de un lado.
Now on one side is our Mother Earth.
En un lado está nuestra madre tierra
On the other side is our grandmother moon.
y en el otro está nuestra abuela Luna.
This is the constant gravitational force on our Mother Earth. So it is between those two.
Y esa es la fuerza constante de gravitación sobre nuestra madre tierra, estos dos.
Now, what happened at that event, again, with the sun being behind us, the sun's pulling gravitationally upon us, pulling us that way towards the sun.
Y lo que ocurre con este evento es que el sol, como está atrás de nosotros, nos está jalando.
And then ahead of us is the one that's always tugging on us, our grandmother moon.
Y enfrente está quien siempre va a jalar sobre nosotros, que es nuestra abuela Luna.
But there's two really big guys standing behind her over there.
Y hay dos planetas muy grandes que están enfrente, bueno, más bien atrás de ella.
And what they do is they just wait. They just wait until they can jump in the game of tug of war.
Y lo que hacen es simplemente esperar hasta que puedan saltar en el juego de la cuerda.
So as soon as our grandmother moon pulls around and aligns with them, they automatically grab that rope and start tugging with our grandmother moon.
Y en cuanto nuestra abuela luna llega a alinearse con ellos inmediatamente jalan con nuestra abuela luna.
And so it goes without saying, the gravitational force on our Mother Earth would be huge. It would be pulling her in both directions.
Y la fuerza gravitacional sobre nuestra madre tierra es inmensa, la está jalando en ambas direcciones.
Now, this could happen and does happen similarly, not precisely the same way, every once in a while.
Y esto puede ocurrir de forma similar de vez en cuando.
But this way that it happened is very unique, and it doesn't happen that often.
Pero de esta forma que ocurrió es muy única y no ocurre tan frecuente.
But so the consequences of that would be that if you're getting pulled in both directions, like imagine somebody pulling both of your arms in both opposite directions.
Y las consecuencias serían, digamos, que si alguien les jala los brazos en dos direcciones opuestas,
What will happen to you is space will be created in the middle of parts of you that were compacted tightly.
lo que sería es que habría espacio que sería creado dentro de ustedes en partes que estaban compactas.
So to speak, is that, well, your shoulder is connected, your arm is connected to your body through your shoulder. It's very tight, you know, it's always at a basic pressure or stability, rate of stability.
Y su brazo está conectado siempre al hombro y por supuesto esa conexión implica un cierto grado de estabilidad.
But if you're getting pulled, what's happening is your tendons will stretch, your muscles will stretch, and even at a certain point, the bone that is connected in the socket will start to loosen.
Pero si están siendo jalados, los músculos van a abrirse, los tendones también, e inclusive eventualmente la conjunción del hueso va a comenzar a abrirse.
So last week, this is what we identified what would happen. And we didn't know until the next day, but the next day we seen that pretty much at that very instance, in the middle of the night here for us, when the moon would be aligned, when that force, gravitational force would be pulling on this side of the earth, that's when Mount Kilauea started to erupt again.
Y eso fue lo que identificamos y justo cuando estábamos haciendo la ceremonia, en ese momento el volcán en Hawái estaba haciendo erupción.
We heard another one in Guatemala.
Y escuchamos de otro volcán en Guatemala.
It is my belief. Now, this is something that this cannot be confirmed.
Y es mi creencia que no puede ser confirmada,
It's just what my belief is right now.
todo lo que yo pienso,
Is that the other volcanoes that maybe were almost on the verge of whatever the pressure was building up, I say that those things are being pushed back down. The pressure's gone back down on them. But all of that which was being pulled up is still now being rooted through just that one volcano, Mount Kilauea.
es que todos los volcanes, su presión fue bajada, pero que ahora están todas esas presiones siendo canalizadas mediante ese volcán, el Kilauea.
Now, we all know the last time, I don't know when that was, a few years ago, Mount Kilauea, you remember it in the news, those slow flows of lava making their way to the ocean. You could see it hitting cars and cars just bursting into flames, houses.
Y recuerdan la última erupción del volcán Kilauea que vimos en las noticias, cómo había la lava que bajaba hacia los ríos, hacia los carros.
I say that this time it's going to be different.
Y yo diría que en este tiempo va a ser distinto.
Right now, nobody, haven't seen anything in the news, haven't really seen anybody in mainstream talking about this volcano.
Ahorita nadie ha visto nada con respecto a este volcán en las medias de comunicación normales.
But I haven't seen personally myself yet any even images of it. I don't know if there is a plume, a dust plume.
Y ni siquiera he visto ejemplos, digamos, de si ha habido
volcanic
una nube de polvo que se ha levantado.
Usually there is, so I would imagine, well, there's going to be a lot of dust in the northern hemisphere.
Y a veces ocurre que hay mucho polvo de volcán que se esparce en el hemisferio norte.
So this will have an extended, prolonged effect on our weather patterns.
Y eso tendría un efecto prolongado y extendido sobre nuestros patrones de meteorología.
But I don't think that that volcanic ash is settling or is going to settle over Turtle Island. I don't think that it's going to like block out the sun of Turtle Island, even to a small degree. I think that that ash, that plume, is being raised so high that it's going to bypass us, and that is going to go right into Europe.
Y no creo que esta nube de polvo vaya a bloquear el sol en el hemisferio, sino que nos va a pasar y va a ir directo hacia Europa.
And I think that this isn't a happenstance, a possibility. I think that anybody who knows the cycles, that this is something that is designed to happen at this time.
Y no creo que sea una posibilidad, sino que quien conozca los ciclos sabe que es un hecho en este tiempo.
When we're considering the alignment of planets, the alignment of galaxies,
Cuando consideramos el alineamiento de los planetas y las galaxias,
there comes into play the basic laws of physics.
las leyes de física entran en juego.
So then anybody can deduce that that tug of war scenario is not a possibility. It's not a playful thing. It is a reality of when you align huge gravitational forces and you have a body in between them. The reality will be a stretching, a coming apart of that one body that is in between them.
Y volviendo al ejemplo de la cuerda, es una cuestión factual el saber que cuando hay una gran fuerza gravitacional que está siendo ejercido sobre un cuerpo, esto va a causar estiramiento.
So it is known what will happen at this time.
Y se sabe lo que va a ocurrir en este tiempo.
Which is the reason why, the precise reason why you do not see anything in the news or no one discussing this about what's happening in Mount Kilauea.
Que es la razón por la cual no ven nadie que discuta lo que está ocurriendo en el volcán Kilauea.
But I will bet you anything that the original peoples of of Hawaii
Pero les apuesto que los pueblos originarios de Hawái
have knowledge of this cycle.
tienen conocimiento de este ciclo.
I'll bet you anything that there's somebody still holding on to that knowledge, not your average person in Hawaii, but somebody way in the back by themselves who has this knowledge of what this means at this time, what it is, what they refer to her as.
Y les apuesto que van a saber esa persona en Hawái, que no sería la persona en la calle, que sabe qué es lo que ocurre y cuál sería inclusive el nombre de ella en este momento.
And when we get that information, we'll be able to draw a more conclusive picture.
Y cuando obtengamos esa información, vamos a poder tener una fotografía más clara.
But right now, this is where, well, we need somebody like, do you recall about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, we had contact with some volcanologist out at the University of British Columbia or something like that?
Recuerdan que tuvimos contacto con un volcanologista, Johan.
Yeah, oh yeah, Johan. What the heck was his name?
It was like
At the time, though, this guy showed that he really didn't have any interest in pursuing anything with us.
En el tiempo, el chico nos mostró que no había como realmente interés en continuar.
Actually, one of his final correspondence was that he's a busy guy and it's basically don't bother me.
Y de hecho dijo que estaba ocupado y básicamente dijo, no me molesten.
So we need to find somebody else, a volcanologist, somebody who is in that field who would be willing to talk.
Entonces necesitamos encontrar a algún volcanologista que quisiera hablar.
We need to find another person to fit that bill. The one that we were working or that we had minimal work with, that isn't a live connection.
Encontrar a alguien que pueda hacer ese trabajo porque con quien estábamos en contacto no se puede continuar.
Something that affirms this to me is that I don't know if any of you remember seeing this. A couple of weeks ago, there was an image that somebody had taken a picture, and I think it was in New Zealand on a beach. There was a giant squid that had washed up on the beach, and there was a guy laying next to the squid like this, spread out, laid right out, and that squid was more bigger than him, but he had just took the picture like to show the comparisons. Anyways, this octopus was there on the beach.
New Zealand, you said?
I think it was New Zealand.
Vi en las noticias la semana pasada que hubo un gran calamar que se fue hacia la playa y de hecho había un chico que se tomó una foto con él para comparar la dimensión de que el calamar era mucho más grande que él.
Now we know that giant squid, that they are not surface dwelling creatures.
Y se sabe muy bien que los calamares gigantes no son criaturas que se vayan a acercar a la superficie.
Actually, the bigger they are, the deeper they are. The huger their body, they're acclimatized to be. So it's like the bigger that you are, the more pressure you can stand. So the bigger you get, you actually go down to those pressures.
Y de hecho, lo más grande que sean, lo más aclimatados que van a estar para bajar a las presiones más profundas.
So now this is something that I don't know if we can find this out, if it's even a possibility. But if we can confirm that picture of this guy, that this actually took place just a week or 2 weeks ago.
Y si pudiésemos confirmar esto, porque esto parece que ocurrió hace un par de semanas,
then that will show us that the geological activity happening deep inside of the earth was already taking place prior to the alignment, that you could already feel the rumblings of it. Like it's just, if this is the alignment, here's where the volcano is, you could hear rumble, boom, 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 until it hits and it goes boom. That's where the combination opens.
Eso nos confirmaría que ya había un gran movimiento subterráneo en el agua, de que previo a este alineamiento, es decir, si hay esta como estiramiento, esa tensión, se empieza a sentir la presión, inclusive la vibración, hasta el momento en el que efectivamente erupta, las erupciones.
And this is where we would need either a volcanologist, he might know this also, or an oceanographer, who would know that giant squids don't normally wash up on the beach.
Entonces necesitaríamos ya sea un volcanologista o a un oceanógrafo que sepa que los calamares gigantes no van a ir a la playa.
That when you're at a certain depth and you pass away, you die there, your body's not going to float up. The pressure in itself is going to keep you down there. If it was the case of bodies floating up once they die, then the surface of the water, the shorelines of the earth would be filled with giant creatures or creatures from the bottom of the ocean.
Y es un hecho que estas criaturas que se encuentran en las bajas profundidades, sus cuerpos no van a flotar a la superficie, sino que por lo contrario, debido a la gran presión, estos cuerpos van hacia el fondo. Si no, siempre estaríamos viendo un montón de cuerpos varados en la superficie del océano.
I say that this giant squid, if it did in fact happen just last week, if it's not a picture from a year ago or something like that.
Y yo diría que este calamar gigante, si de hecho ocurrió la semana pasada, que no es una foto de hace un año o no sé cuándo,
then that squid was trying to get away from something. It's trying to escape something.
Entonces ese calamar gigante trataba de escaparse de algo.
And so you can deduce then, well, what is it trying to escape? I mean, giant squids don't really have a natural predator. As far as I know, I don't think that once they're at a certain size, I don't think there's anything that is a predator for a giant squid.
Y pueden deducir que los calamares gigantes no tienen depredadores naturales.
So it wouldn't be anything that it's afraid of like something that's going to eat it. Like, oh no, here's something that's going to bite me in half. I don't think there's anything like that.
Y no sería algo que estaría asustado de que lo comiera o algo así.
It would be only trying the reason why it comes to the surface is because it's trying to escape something from down there in those depths.
La razón por la cual viene a la superficie es que está tratando de escaparse de algo que está en las profundidades.
And as we know that in the depths of the ocean, life is pretty stable. It's pretty much at a constant. The only thing that changes is if there's an underwater fissure that erupts and releases boiling water, other toxins, which would then kill the animals that are normally around there.
Y sabemos que la única forma en la que pueden emerger es si hubiese algo que se estuviese produciendo a nivel de la profundidad oceánica que liberaría, digamos, toxinas o algo que sería una amenaza para su vida.
But it's also around those fissures where hemoglobin is manufactured.
Y es alrededor de esos que también la hemoglobina es producida.
I forget now, we would need an oceanographer, but anybody can prove me wrong on this.
Y alguien puede decirme si me equivoco.
And you would just then confirm or get the correct information.
Y tendrían que tener la información correcta.
Is that where was I going with that?
The hemoglobin.
Oh, okay, that at the fissures that are on the bottom of the ocean that erupt, around there forms these, I forget what they're called, they're white tubes, and they're filled with hemoglobin. They can only survive around the fissures that are releasing the heat from the interior of the earth.
Porque hay estas como geysers que se forman en la parte profunda de los océanos en los que hay esta erupción de donde salen estas toxinas, pero que es a partir de ahí que se van a formar tubos blancos que van a generar esa hemoglobina y esa hemoglobina puede mantenerse viva solamente en esas circunstancias.
So the volcano or a fissure, whatever may be underwater, some geological occurrence took place that released either heat or some other toxins that then kill this or affects this giant squid to try to escape and come to the surface. It dies.
Y podría ser este volcán o este geyser que libera algo que ataca a este calamar y que él trata de escapar para no ser dañado.
Anyways, with all of that being said, in a nutshell, what I deduce is that Mount Kilauea is not going to stop this time.
Y lo que yo deduzco con todo esto es que el volcán Kilauea no se va a detener en este tiempo.
I'm not saying it's going to be a huge, giant explosion or anything.
Y no estoy diciendo que vaya a ser una explosión gigante.
It just may be a constant, slow flow, like your faucet left on and just a trickle. Not anything that would necessarily do a lot of damage.
Sino que tal vez sea solamente un flujo constante de algo que tal vez no vaya a crear un gran daño.
Unless you are there.
A menos de que estén ahí.
And so then we will see then what will be damaged.
Y veríamos entonces qué es lo que sería dañado.
Mount Kilauea. Well, there's houses there, you know, there's some people around. Well, that's not really going to be the damage.
Y en el monte Kilauea realmente, bueno, hay casas. ¿Cuál es el daño?
The damage is what the U.S. military is doing there.
es lo que el ejército estadounidense está haciendo ahí.
The so-called United States military has been performing, as you know, all kind of military exercises there in Hawaii ever since before World War II.
El ejército ha estado haciendo todo tipo de experimentos militares después de la Segunda Guerra Mundial.
We know that they're doing things with underwater sonar there that is affecting all the animal life.
Y sabemos que están haciendo experimentos con ultrasonido marítimo que está afectando toda la vida marina.
But as you see a mountain in the middle of the ocean, you know, that comes up out of the ocean, you wonder, like, how the heck does that thing stay there?
Pero algo gigante que está en la profundidad del océano y que sale, ¿cómo puede permanecer ahí?
If you look at fissures at the bottom of the ocean, you know, they rise up, they look like smokestacks.
Si ven los geysers que están abajo en la profundidad oceánica, se levanta el humo y parecen pilares.
As those things form, of course, at the bottom of the ocean, the heat that's coming out is clashing with the freezing cold temperature of the water.
Y mientras esta gran temperatura caliente sale, va a tener un impacto directo confrontacional, digámoslo así, con la temperatura fría de la profundidad del océano.
This permits some of the gases or even the molten lava or whatever's coming out to solidify.
Y esto permite que cosas de las que salen de estos gases o esta lava a temperatura elevada se solidifique.
And that's what forms these big smokestack-like looking things.
Y es lo que crea estos pilares.
But you know that sometimes those things just break off.
Y también saben que estas cosas a veces se rompen simplemente.
So when I'm thinking about Hawaii, how the heck does that island stay there? How does it not just break off?
Y cuando yo pienso en Hawái, pienso, ¿cómo es posible que esta isla continúe, que no sea como rota?
It's because at its foundation, from the surface of the water, if this is the island of Hawaii right there, then all of this down here, where it's connected to the bottom of the ocean, all of that has life all around it that keeps it alive as a living thing, not just as an inanimate object that can break, but a living thing that is holding itself together.
Es porque todo esto que está en la superficie de la isla tiene toda esta base que la está sosteniendo, que está llena de vida y que por eso no puede permitir que nada más se rompa, sino que le da su sustento constante.
But with all of the experiments that the so-called US military has been conducting there, they're killing off all the wildlife that lives around that land that's underwater, that keeps it alive, that keeps it held together.
Y con todo este ejercicio militar que están haciendo, están tratando de romper toda esa vida que mantiene todo este sustento junto.
So I say, doesn't mean it's so. I could be completely wrong on this. I say that the landmass of Hawaii is being weakened by the so-called United States military.
Y yo digo que la parte de la isla de Hawái está siendo debilitada por los militares de los Estados Unidos.
Sort of like what we know what the non-native does when they see a forest. Hey, what do? Hey, look, a forest. They go there and they cut it down.
Un poco como sabemos lo que hacen con los bosques. Ven un bosque y dicen, ay, hay que cortarlo.
And so the same principle here, the same concept.
Y este es el mismo concepto aquí.
Yeah, so I say that there is something happening in Hawaii beyond what we can see, beyond just this Mount Kilauea erupting.
Y yo diría que hay algo mucho más que ver aparte del hecho de que este volcán está haciendo erupción aquí.
And so we need to find someone in Hawaii who is of old thoughts.
Entonces tenemos que encontrar a alguien en Hawái que pertenezca a este viejo pensamiento.
Someone who knows things from a long time ago.
Alguien que sepa cosas de hace tiempo.
Someone who has a hard time comprehending and even getting along in this so-called modern world.
Alguien que tenga dificultad inclusive de vivir y entender este mundo moderno.
That person who holds those old stories will also hold the story of what would happen at this time.
Y esa persona también va a tener el conocimiento de lo que está ocurriendo en este tiempo.
And we're not looking for just anybody who could just come out and deduce things and say, oh, well, this will probably happen.
Y no estamos buscando a alguien nada más que diga, ay, puede que esto es lo que esté pasando.
I can do that. I can deduce things.
Yo puedo hacer eso, deducir eso.
And so can a volcanologist, so can an oceanographer. We're not looking for that.
Y también un oceanógrafo o un volcanologista.
We're looking for a person of knowledge.
Estamos buscando una persona de conocimiento.
And so this would be, again, somebody within the old thoughts of the people in Hawaii.
Y esto sería de nuevo alguien dentro del viejo pensamiento en Hawái.
Someone who could tell us what she's doing right now.
Alguien que pudiese decirnos qué es lo que ella está haciendo en este momento.
Okay, so anyways, with all of this being said, this is to identify that at this time, as a result of the interaction we had here in the Reconstitution last week, it altered our winter solstice ceremony to get us within the proper beginning and end of that cycle.
Todo esto para decir que gracias a la interacción que tuvimos en la Reconstitución la semana pasada, nos alteró para ajustar la forma en la que hacemos la ceremonia de solsticio de invierno.
And what comes about through this is by being exposed to that knowledge, then you can do things more correctly here in the world.
Y lo que ocurre como exposición a este conocimiento es que las cosas se pueden hacer de forma más correcta en el mundo.
And if you are doing things more correctly, that means you are making less mistakes, less things are breaking, so less time you have to spend on spin-off side effects of doing the wrong thing. The more time you'll have to focus on the correct thing and learning more knowledge.
Y esto significa que como hay un ajuste a la forma correcta de hacer las cosas, hay menos errores, menos tiempos invertidos en corregir cosas y por lo tanto más tiempo invertido en aprender lo correcto.
Yeah, so through this process, we're going to see, we're seeing it already. I'm seeing it. Doesn't mean that it's true, because what I'm seeing is what I am feeling, what I am deducing.
Y mediante este proceso, yo no estoy diciendo que eso es lo que es, sino va basado en lo que siento, en lo que observo.
But what I am seeing is that knowledge is erupting out of the land itself through the people who have these old thoughts, who have old knowledge. And then through this process, which we are engaged in, the sharing of knowledge, that knowledge then comes to a point of reflection where it's reflected back to all the nations, to all the people.
Y lo que significa es que esta gente de conocimiento viene a transmitirnos lo que saben y nosotros lo podemos ajustar en la forma en la que hacemos, alterar y de vuelta retransmitirlo al resto de la gente.
So we see a time of awakening. Anybody could say that at any time. But when you see these huge galactic events happening that affects things physically here on Earth, that then has its spin-off effects to us, then we can see how the universe speaks to us, communicates to us, works through us to have end results here on Earth.
Y entonces podemos ver de una forma fácil o más bien visible cómo el universo trabaja mediante nosotros, lo cual hace tener resultados en el mundo físico.
So again, the continuation of the sharing of knowledge is the thing that is paramount.
Y por lo tanto, el compartir la información es lo primordial.
Okay, with all of that being said, since there's only a few of us here, if there's anybody that's got anything to say to that, to add to it, you got any questions on it, anything, then we'll open the floor.
Y entonces, si hay alguien que tenga algo que decir, que comentar, que preguntar, abrimos el piso a todo el mundo.
But first, I got a question for Susan.
Pero antes tengo una pregunta para Susan.
I don't know if I'm just putting two and two together, but you said mashiki?
Susan, tú mencionaste la palabra mesheki.
Is that correct?
Susan, you are muted.
Am I unmuted now? Can you hear me?
We can.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Can you hear me? Okay. No, it's it's called, the family's name is Mashike.
Mashike. Okay.
Mashike.
A question for you. I don't know if this is or whatever. There's a guy on Facebook. His name is Philip Mashike.
It's my nephew.
Okay.
La pregunta para ti es acerca de este chico en Facebook que se llama Philip Meshike y Susan dice que es su sobrino.
Very good. I can see a bigger picture now.
Entonces ahora puedo ver una imagen más clara.
A simple thing like that in confirming that we know certain people and then we see what those people are doing through social media, Facebook, it makes a better understanding. I have a better understanding now of you, of him, of what's happening from those territories.
Y entonces veo una cosa mucho más amplia de alguien que conocemos por las medias sociales, saber qué es lo que hace y qué es lo que está ocurriendo mediante él, contigo, en todo esto.
Okay, this is your nephew. Have you or anyone else, is he put on the path properly? Is he finding his way to the path? Is he in between two worlds? How would you describe?
Con respecto a tu sobrino, ¿cómo lo describirías? ¿Está en el camino? ¿Está encontrando su camino?
Can you hear me? Okay. In my view, Philip is on the path. We don't always agree. We have a tradition of the contrary within our family. He practices it. I have yet to learn about it, so I don't practice it, but we have a very rich history and we're seeking a family healing because over the generations, our family has been blown to the four directions. A lot of alienation and separation. And Philip and I are the only two in our family that has made the decision to come together again and to heal what's been broken.
Susan nos explica que en su familia hay una tradición que se llama del contrario, que Philip sigue muy bien y que ella está tratando de aprender, pero en realidad el viaje en el que ambos se encuentran es que ambos decidieron volver a integrarse porque el resto de su familia, debido al trauma transgeneracional, fue esparcida en las cuatro direcciones y a pesar de que en algunas ocasiones no estén de acuerdo, han hecho de esa misión de volverse a reintegrar su camino.
You know, when you get if you remember this when we were kids, we get a coloring book and in one of the pages, it just has dots, you know, it's the connect the dot thing.
¿Sí te acuerdas? Cuando éramos niños había libros en los que había puntitos y teníamos que conectarlos para hacer un dibujo.
This is where I feel where we're at today. There was dots on this page and now there's lines connecting them and the picture is becoming clearer.
Es en donde me siento el día de hoy, como había esos puntitos y hoy las líneas están siendo dibujadas.
In the rate now, we, of course, right now we will not comprehend things if we were all of a sudden time traveled into next year. We wouldn't even know, like if we time travel, we would just think everything is the way that it is now. But then if we just were plopped into next year, we would have, we would be confused.
En el aquí y ahora hay algo muy básico con respecto al viaje en el tiempo, es decir, el viaje lo vemos constantemente porque estamos a día viviendo la vida, pero si hoy estuviéramos aventados, digamos, el próximo año, habría un montón de cosas que no entenderíamos.
But what it looks like is building here is that in the near future, that on your side of the world, that there will be the dots that the people will have to connect, and a picture will emerge. There are people on that side of the world that will have to come together. You may or may not be. This is, of course, decided by you and perhaps your nephew. You may become a point of, like an anchor that people may gravitate towards.
Y puede que en un futuro muy próximo, tanto tú como tus sobrinos sean como esas anclas que van a ser esos puntos que van a permitir que la gente pueda conectar otras cosas para que algo pueda emerger.
There are people there within the same so-called state that you may never have been aware of each other, may not even have contact with each other.
Y hay gente en el así llamado estado que puede que nunca hayan sabido nada de ellos y nunca hayan estado en contacto.
But Harold and Desiree are not far from you, and then even a little further up the road, Grace, she's not much more further either.
Y están Harold y Desiree, que no están tan lejos de ustedes, y también está un poquito más hacia arriba Grace, que tampoco está tan lejos.
We may at some point find that our affiliations may not be limited to this medium, that it may pop out of these screens and come into the real world.
Puede que nos demos cuenta que las afiliaciones son mucho más profundas de lo que creemos y que esto emerja en el mundo real más allá de las pantallas.
Okay, anyways, let's go around then. If anybody's got anything they want to say on this, if not, then we're going to move on to something else.
Entonces, si hay alguien que tenga algo que decir, es el momento. Si no, vamos a poder movernos a algo más. Celine raised her hand and then was Susan, so go ahead, Celine.
My name is Celine. I'm the daughter of Cecilia, the great daughter of Rosanna, the great-great-granddaughter of Olivia, and I'm also the mother of Roxanne.
Celine se
I'm
presenta.
from Ontario in Canada, and I'm from the original people of the Hurons, and I'm presently a temporary member of the Wolf Clan in the Life Givers Nation.
Y se encuentra en el así llamado Ontario, del así llamado Canadá, y es miembro temporal del clan del lobo de la Nación de Dadoras de Vida.
When you told the story about the squid, and I realized they live, like I understand when you say they're bigger, they live lower, so the pressure is higher. What I was wondering is it possible because of the alignment of all those planets? Because I felt it myself. I felt I'm very sensitive to high pressure, and I felt a difference in the past few weeks about the pressure. And I'm wondering if the squid was not maybe exposed to even more pressure than what she could handle. And the other thing that comes to me as to why I suspect that is that there's a lot of people I know that are very sensitive to energy, and they've been like, it's coming back, whatever they didn't, like hearing voices and seeing people, and they used in the past to ask not to see that anymore, and it stopped, but presently it's starting again. So there's something affecting the energy, like it is reactivating something, as if it's like there's a purpose there. There's like it's reactivated so that we could, the people that are sensitive could perceive things that I guess they want to try to have us perceive. I was wondering if that could be an answer about the squid.
Celine básicamente pregunta si el hecho de que este calamar gigante haya salido se deba a grandes presiones, porque ella experimentó una gran depresión esta semana.
Okay, I ain't no meteorologist, but when you're talking about pressure,
No soy un meteorólogo, pero cuando hablamos de presión,
Pressure is something that is, if it's atmospheric, then it's something that is equal all around a certain bandwidth.
es algo que es atmosférico, entonces en cierto perímetro.
So if we're looking at, say, the bottom of the ocean and say different atmospheric pressures, then you can see different concentric circles around the core of the earth as to where the pressure would be, just as an example, say 10 pounds right at the right around the surface of the bottom of the ocean. And then the next concentric circle, maybe 9, 8, 7, just the pressures are different.
Entonces podríamos ver distintos círculos concéntricos desde el punto de presión más grande en la profundidad oceánica y así en círculos hacia el exterior, digamos, lo más profundo en presión sería 10, luego 9 y así.
Now, for these gravitational forces to affect atmospheric pressure, I don't doubt. I won't say yes or no. I would imagine, yeah, that they would affect atmospheric pressure. But when you're talking about pressure in the ocean, that would be affected by atmospheric pressure.
Y no dudo que las presiones en general sean afectadas, pero cuando hablamos de la presión en el océano, es afectada por la presión atmosférica.
So then I think we can deduce that it wasn't as a result of this pressure increase that caused this squid to get out of there, because if that was the case, there would be more squid, there would be more whatever creatures live within that specific bandwidth.
Y tendría que ser algo mayor, porque si no, es decir, para que afectara a seres vivientes de esa presión específica, tendría que haber sido mayor.
I think the fact that it's just if that picture can be affirmed to be that, yes, it happened last week, I think that we can identify it as an isolated incident.
Y si esa fotografía puede ser confirmada como que en realidad ocurrió la semana pasada, sería más bien como un caso aislado.
We haven't seen or heard of any oarfish washing up on shore or even being seen by anybody.
Porque no hemos visto ningún otro gran animal oceánico que haya llegado a la costa.
So it would seem that I think we can deduce that it wasn't that atmospheric pressure that caused that one squid to be affected that way.
Y podemos deducir que no fue esa presión atmosférica que ocasionó que ese calamar saliera.
Like all of us in here, you know how the longhouse is here. You know, if you're sitting up by the door, well, you're gonna be at a nice temperature, you know. But if you're sitting where I'm sitting, you know, you're gonna be boiling hot over here.
Es como para quienes han venido aquí a la casa larga, saben muy bien que si están sentados lejos del fuego, van a estar en una temperatura tranquila, pero si están cerca del fuego, van a estar ardiendo.
And that's just to exemplify what the circumstances are that would then affect only one of us instead of everybody of us in here.
Y eso es para dar el ejemplo de cómo las condiciones afectarían solamente a uno de nosotros y no al resto.
So, and again, with this happening in Hawaii, this isn't so far from if that picture was indeed from New Zealand.
Y si esta foto era de hecho de Nueva Zelanda,
there would have to be a fissure somewhere that was where the pressure came out.
Tendría que haber ido un geyser del cual la presión salió.
Which this squid was caught up in.
Y que este calamar fue afectado.
Anyways, it is a thing that needs to be examined.
Es algo que necesita ser examinado.
And right now, us examining it, we can deduce certain generalities.
Y podemos deducir ciertas generalidades.
But this is where maybe Captain Paul Watson might know somebody, or they might keep data on this, as if they have seen squids washing up, or if they had seen any lower level creatures rising to the surface?
Es ahí en donde tal vez el capitán Paul Watson y su gente mantiene registros de si han visto algo semejante.
Because ultimately, I'll say that we know that lies are now the status quo. It is the narrative that is being fed to everyone on everything. False information.
Porque últimamente sabemos que las mentiras es ahora el statu quo, es decir, que hay una falsa narrativa que está siendo alimentada a todo mundo por todos los medios.
So in an atmosphere of false information, it is left to the people to cut through all the garbage and to then to deduce what is the truth that we are gonna conclude upon. What are we gonna identify what the truth is in the midst of all these lies that are being told about everything?
Y en el medio de toda esta falsa información tenemos que identificar en dónde se encuentra la verdad.
So, yeah, we do need, like I was saying, we do need to have a little expanded conversation here with, we need a volcanologist, we need an oceanographer. The oceanographer might be David Lilly. We already have him that we worked with. Terry Lilly, sorry. He's stationed in Hawaii. He's the one that's been putting his life on the line, fighting against all of the destruction that the so-called U.S. military is causing around Hawaii through sonar experiments.
Y el oceanógrafo podría ser Terry Lilly, con quien ya colaboramos. Necesitamos un volcanologista. Terry Lilly es el que ha estado encargándose de registrar y observar todos los desastres que están ocasionando los militares a nivel del océano.
No, I don't think that we're going to get anybody who's a volcanologist who is going to show interest in what we are discussing. Maybe not for about maybe a moon down the road.
Y tal vez no vayamos a encontrar a un volcanologista que esté interesado en lo que estamos discutiendo tal vez en la próxima luna.
Because they're not on the same wavelength as us to be able to say, oh, this is what we deduce. I deduce that Mount Kilauea is going to be a continuous thing now. Now, if it goes out, well, then I'm proven to be that I don't know what I'm talking about. But if it does, then within a moon's time, we will have a volcanologist that will be interested in speaking with us.
Porque estoy diciendo que lo que está ocurriendo en el volcán en Hawái no va a detenerse y por el momento puede que no se pueda ver. Entonces, tal vez en una luna, si esto paró, pues significa que no sé de lo que estoy hablando, pero si continúa, vamos a tener a alguien que se interese.
Okay, anyways, just again, to go over your question to what I am saying about your question doesn't mean it's so. It is something that together we have to discover. We have to find all the information that a volcanologist would know, all the information that an oceanographer or whatever what they are would know about squids and about creatures that are at lower levels.
Entonces tenemos que juntar esa información, lo que un volcanologista sabría sobre las presiones internas que provocan las erupciones volcánicas y lo que un oceanógrafo sabría sobre las presiones a nivel del suelo oceánico.
If there is anybody who can facilitate in that field, if you happen to know a volcanologist, maybe he lives right next door to you. Any of you happen to know one, well, just talk to him and say, hey, next week we're having a barbecue, come to our barbecue.
Y si hay alguien que conozca a un volcanologista, simplemente invitarlo a nuestro barbecue de la próxima semana.
And same thing with an oceanographer.
Y lo mismo de un oceanógrafo.
Okay, then, unless there was something else there, we're gonna move on to someone else, Celine.
Y a menos de que haya otra cosa ahí, vamos a continuar con Susan.
The only thing that I also add was the fact that there's some people that used to receive some information as to, I don't know, the spirit world, seeing pictures and getting voice, and it stopped, and all of a sudden it's starting again. So it's as if in the energy world, there's something occurring right now. I felt it too, and now I'm getting people coming back to me and saying about these things. So I'm wondering if you would have any suggestion or feedback on that, or anybody here?
La otra cosa de la que hablé es acerca de la gente que tiene conexión con el mundo de los espíritus y que dijeron que había gente o que recibían voces y que paró por un tiempo, pero que ahora volvió. Entonces estoy preguntando si hay algo que tengas que decir al respecto.
Yeah, first of all, let's address that. People hearing that, saying, oh, people hearing messages from the spirit world and energy and stuff like that. Mainstream people, as soon as they hear you say that, they're going to tune out. They're going to think that this woman is crazy.
Primero hay que abordar eso. Alguien que escuche a alguien decir, ay, mundo del espíritu, escuchan voces y alguien baja y les da consejos, van a pensar inmediatamente, uy, esa mujer está loca.
But the majority of the world doesn't know about how the world functions.
Pero la mayoría del mundo no sabe cómo funciona el mundo.
All we have to do is look at the life giver.
Todo lo que tenemos que hacer es ver a la dadora de vida.
Okay, in the life giver's form, if we look at, well, use Edith, she's right here. We look at Edith. Is there any energy there? Is there any signs of life? Non-native world will say, no, there's no energy, no signs of life.
Y si vemos el ejemplo de Edith, que está aquí, es una dadora de vida, y se le pregunta al mundo indígena, ¿hay alguna señal de vida o de energía? Ellos van a decir que no.
This is pretty much the way the non-native considers a human being, because they consider everything else to be inanimate. And the fact of how science tears apart and breaks down everything just shows that they do not understand what life is, because in trying to understand it, they kill it.
Y esa es la forma que el no indígena ve a los humanos, básicamente, es decir, no ven, porque hablan de los objetos no animados y los animados, entonces si hay algo que no se mueve, digamos una planta, algo, lo van a ver como sin vida, entonces es fácil matarlo.
So then let's take another life giver, place her right next to Edith, but a life giver who is pregnant.
Entonces pongamos a otra dadora de vida al lado de Edith y que esté embarazada.
Maybe where she's not showing, maybe she's just pregnant for a couple of weeks.
Y puede que aún no se vea y que tenga un par de semanas.
Now she'd look exactly the same thing as Edith,
Se ve de la misma forma que Edith
and a person would deduce the same thing.
y la persona deduciría lo mismo.
But if you had some kind of gauge, energy gauge, you know, like what do they call those things that detect, like what do they call those?
Magnetoscope. Magnetoscope.
When you go near something that's crap, I can't think of the damn. When I was out west, there was a guy who was measuring
The water.
the radiation. That device that measures radiation.
Y si tuviéramos algo que mediría, digamos, la radiación,
Okay, so you know that it goes tick, 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 tick. Maybe as you get closer to it, tick, 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 you'll go off the scale.
saben que va a hacer un sonido y conforme se acerque más a la fuente va a aumentar.
So if you had a gauge like that, well, you're looking at Edith, people maybe, because she's not pregnant, determine no life there. They'll look at this other girl, no life there, but you put it in this detector there and you'll see, hey, there's something going on inside. You can't see it. You don't know what the heck it is, but there's some kind of energy at work inside of the life giver that is impregnated.
Entonces, si ambas están ahí y en Edith no hay esta señal, pero en la otra chica sí, es que hay una energía que está ocurriendo.
And that energy is not an inert energy.
Y esta energía no es inerte,
It's not just there within that person and that's it. That energy, even though it's there building a baby inside of a mother, that energy doesn't stay there. It's like all energy. It, like heat, evaporates. It rises to larger and larger levels of reality.
y no es una energía inerte, sino que mientras el bebé se está formando ahí, se expande a otras dimensiones de la vida.
So as you know, women can usually detect this, but some men too. I've been able to detect it in the past when you look at a girl and you see something. She just looks different. And you can ask, you know, right away, you ask, are you pregnant? And yes, she's pregnant. That's the energy leaving her. That is good energy. That is powerful energy. That when that energy leaves her and travels through the air and reaches your eyeballs, your eyeballs are interpreting all the things that are affected in the body by that energy. Chemically, her skin is even affected. She looks more beautiful. She looks shiny, radiant. She looks bursting of life.
Y la mayoría de las mujeres lo pueden detectar y algunos hombres también. Yo en el pasado he visto chicas que están embarazadas y si les preguntas, te van a decir que sí, y ves que hay una energía inmediata que sale a través de los ojos que se comunica.
So in the non-native world, when they hear somebody such as you saying what you just said, they'll tune out. They won't, they're not alive. They're not aware of energies.
Y en el mundo no indígena, cuando alguien dice así con respecto a las energías, es como si se apagan porque no están sintonizados con eso.
But all energies automatically affect any other energies.
Pero todas las energías afectan inmediatamente las otras.
If it's a wave, you drop a pebble in the water over there, you're going to see the wave coming. Then you throw a rock over there and you'll see that wave coming from there and you'll see these two waves interacting. They will affect each other. And at a certain point, they will cancel out each other. At a certain point, it will be smooth. Now, it won't be at the low point. It will be at the high point where they come together. It will be, for a very short period of time, a relative smoothness there.
Es el equivalente de lanzar dos piedras al agua que van a crear ondas y que en cierto momento se van a tocar hasta que interactúen y después se calmen y se vuelva completamente calmado.
As you know, that the sun and the moon interacting together causing eclipse affects everyone on earth immediately, whether they know about it or not.
Y como saben, el hecho de que el sol y la luna interactúen y creen un eclipse afecta a todo mundo sobre la Tierra, lo puedan ver o creer o no.
You know that from, in 2017 when we had the law recital here, that when the total solar eclipse hit, that at the same time, there was that binary star that had collapsed into itself, releasing the gravitational waves that had hit us at the same time.
Como en 2017, simultáneamente que hubo el eclipse solar, había las ondas gravitacionales de esa estrella binaria que nos había impactado.
Now, we were affected by that immediately.
Y que fuimos impactados por ello inmediatamente.
And for those who weren't affected immediately, you were affected by it maybe a week or two later. If you're connected to us, when we then revealed the information that we heard, then it made its way into your mind and you were able to conclude the process of from where it exploded, released the gravitational waves and hit you until the point of where your mind then concluded on that issue, addressed it.
Y entonces cuando les compartimos esta información, ustedes pudieron concluir que sí, era algo que había explotado, tenido impacto de onda gravitacional, hasta después que pudimos observar la luz de la explosión.
So in a nutshell, what I'll say is that what it is affecting is that it is releasing the power of life, the same power of life that is there within an impregnated woman.
Y el equivalente del poder que es liberado es el mismo que una mujer embarazada.
So we have to think, what does that power look like?
Y tenemos que pensar en cómo se ve ese poder.
Here on the level of existence that we are cognizant of, that we're conscious of, well, we just know the end results. We just see the big things. We don't see the tiny little intricate molecular motions that are happening within inside of us.
Porque no podemos ver los movimientos moleculares más pequeños que ocurren dentro de nosotros, sino solamente lo que se ve por afuera.
And so our subconscious will become aware of things, aware of chemical interactions, energy interactions, gravitational waves. Our subconscious is aware of that way before that our conscious is.
Y nuestro subconsciente es consciente de todas estas energías sutiles mucho antes de que nuestro consciente lo sea.
But just because we may not be conscious of it does not mean that it's not happening, that it's not really going on. There's a lot of work going on in our bodies on every level, molecularly, from the alignment. There's a lot of work. You can almost say like it's, if you look at every molecule in our body as a factory, every factory in our body is retooling. They've re-engineered and retooled their factory production line to accommodate this great change. And every factory in us making these changes accumulates to critical mass where our consciousness is then affected by it.
Y es el equivalente de recibir esta energía con todo lo que los pequeños ajustes de nuestra mecánica, de nuestro cuerpo está haciendo para acomodar este gran cambio.
Yeah, so whether anybody will see it, admit it or not, and we don't give a damn about scientists if they see it or admit it, because they will not see it or admit it. But yes, all of our energy, and we are all a source of energy. We are energy producers. This is our factories. We are the factory producing energy. So all of us getting our product, what we produce from the central point of consciousness throughout the waterverse, we are manufacturing that, we are processing that stuff of life. So from the scale of the very large of Sky Woman to the scale of the very small, we're right here on Earth. Every life giver, their life-giving powers are being amped up, amplified.
Entonces es el equivalente de que los poderes de las dadoras de vida, como esta fábrica de energía que somos, están siendo amplificados.
And this is why you will see more oppression of women.
Y es por eso que va a haber más opresión sobre las mujeres.
But at the same time, you will see women struggling, fighting to come out of the oppression.
Y al mismo tiempo van a haber mujeres que hacen todo para salir de esta opresión.
We are, through these galactic movements, we are in a new phase now, a new time of creation.
Y en estos movimientos galácticos estamos en un nuevo rostro de la creación.
And we could say it's a time of peace. We could say any time is a time of peace.
Y podemos decir que es un tiempo de paz y podemos decir que cualquier tiempo lo es.
But if we can consciously say this is a time of peace that we're entering into, then that means we know on some level that, hey, we were just in a time of not peace.
Y si podemos decir que vamos a un tiempo de paz, podemos decir que estábamos en un tiempo de no paz.
And so if all the time is a time of peace, then why was that time that we were just in a time of no peace?
Y si todo el tiempo es un tiempo de paz, ¿por qué el tiempo en el que estábamos era de no paz?
Is it scheduled from the universal, waterversal level to be a time of no peace? No, it was not scheduled to be that.
No porque fuera un programa del aguaverso para que fuera así.
And so this is the great lie that everybody is telling also, that this is the time of peace.
Y esa es la gran mentira que se está diciendo también, que este es el tiempo de paz.
How could it be when, if we just shifted and now it's time of peace, how could it be that yesterday was not time of peace?
Si acabamos de cambiar a un tiempo de paz, como ayer no era tiempo de paz.
And all the days before that?
Y todos los días anteriores.
When we see that it's humans that are making it a time of no peace.
Cuando vemos que son los humanos los que lo están haciendo un tiempo de no paz.
So what good does it do for us to say, hey, we are now entering a time of peace, when it's humans that make the time of no peace?
¿Y de qué sirve decir que es un tiempo de paz si son los humanos que lo hacen de no paz?
If we just walk blindly into this and just take for granted what everybody's saying, oh, it's the time of peace, then we're just going to take for granted that everything that's happening, that's coming to us, is in line with peace because, oh, the great cycle is of peace. No, it is all dependent on human interaction with all those energies. And if humans are stupid, then humans will continue to do what they did yesterday when it was a time of no peace. They will carry that over into today, the time of peace, making it not a time of peace.
Y si la gente cree que porque es un periodo de paz es como si todo va a ser automático y va a estar muy bien, pues están siendo estúpidos pensando que no van a tener que hacer nada y van a traer todo este tiempo de no paz hacia este tiempo de paz.
It's human interaction with everything that determines that thing, the outcome of that thing, or how it will be, how it will live its life, or how it will be destroyed.
Y es la interacción humana la que determina cómo va a vivir dentro de la vida o va a ser destruida.
Well, that places us right at the center of all things.
Y eso nos pone en el centro de las cosas.
And if all things are dependent on our interaction with it, if it will be good or corrupted, this reveals to you a greater power than what 7 billion people have been relegated to. Your brains have been made smaller than a pea, when our brains are as huge as the waterverse.
Y va a depender de la interacción si es algo bueno o algo corrupto. Y esto indica que el cerebro humano ha sido reducido al tamaño de un chicharito, siendo que es del tamaño del universo.
The only time or the only way we will work with the powers and energies we are being given to turn it into a time of peace
Y la única forma en la que vamos a trabajar con las energías que nos son dadas para hacerlo un tiempo de paz
is like was said earlier. If the humans forget about their corruption and their little soiree into the realm of war,
es como fue dicho, si los humanos olvidan sus corrupciones y su tiempo en la guerra.
so this means humans must leave their abomination of God.
Y eso significa que los humanos deben dejar atrás su abominación de Dios,
Of religion.
de la religión.
The only way that we will move into a time of peace here on our Mother Earth is if all religions are eradicated from our Mother Earth.
Y la única forma en la que nos vamos a poder mover hacia ese tiempo de paz es si todas las religiones son erradicadas de la faz de la tierra.
Now, we're not talking about eradicating the people who are corrupted from religion.
Y no hablamos de erradicar a la gente que es corrupta por la religión,
We are talking about removing the corruption of religion.
sino de remover la corrupción de la religión.
And this is something that is set into motion,
Y esto es algo que está en camino,
not from me and not just because I'm saying it,
no por mí o porque yo lo digo,
but what is happening on the waterversal level.
pero lo que ocurre en el nivel del aguaverso.
Just like you have an autoimmune system. If you had some kind of whatever bug virus inside of you, well, your autoimmune system would go there and attack it, get rid of it.
Como ustedes que tienen digamos, algo que va a atacar su sistema inmunitario,
The poison is in the minds of men, and it is identified as religion.
de la misma forma, el veneno está en la mente de los hombres y se identifica como la religión.
And so this is what is in the process of being eradicated.
Y esto es lo que está en el proceso de ser erradicado.
Now, if anyone stays connected to that in any way, then it will be the people that are eradicated. So out of your own stupidity, all 7 billion people, if you stay connected to religion, your stupidity of staying connected to it is what will kill you.
Y si hay alguien que sea lo suficientemente estúpido como para seguir conectado a la religión, va a ser esa estupidez que le va a matar.
So what we have right now is, or what we're in, I mean, is a transition process of where we could, the energy is there. The rape victim, our mother, could push the rapist off of her.
Y estamos en un proceso de transición en el que nuestra madre podría empujar al violador fuera de ella.
Let's identify the rapist.
Identifiquemos al violador.
Who's raping our mother?
¿Quién está violando a nuestra madre?
And so if our mother pushes the rapist off of her, who is it that will be eradicated off of her?
Y si nuestra madre empuja al violador, ¿quién va a ser erradicada de ella?
So think about that, everybody.
Entonces piensen en eso.
If you are honest with yourself, you would say, wait a minute, I am the rapist. I am the one that is going to get eradicated because I am the one that is participating in all that is, in fact, raping our mother.
Y si ustedes fuesen honestos con ustedes mismos, dirían, espérense un momento, yo voy a ser erradicado porque estoy conectado a todo lo que está violando a nuestra madre.
So where we are, ultimately, what has been exposed to us through this winter solstice
Y en dónde estamos y lo que nos ha sido expuesto en este solsticio de invierno,
is that all of us are getting a clear view of what people refer to as the serpent, or you could just say the path of life.
es que tenemos una visión más clara de lo que los humanos se refieren como la serpiente, o más bien el camino de la vida,
It is flowing through all things right now.
que está fluyendo por todas las cosas.
And it's at the perfect place to shed its skin.
Y está en el momento perfecto para cambiar de piel.
So again, when that serpent pulls the skin off of it to the dead skin laying there, again, all of that skin was intimately connected to the body. You would think that if at any other time you try to pull that skin off, it would hurt like hell. You would probably die of pain.
Y si en cualquier otro momento se quisiera quitar esa piel, normalmente dolería mucho y a lo mejor hasta morirían del dolor.
But at that time, it is necessary in order to grow, to rid the body of that which is compromised.
Pero en ese momento es necesario deshacerse con la finalidad de crecer, deshacerse de aquello que ha sido comprometido.
So we're moving into a time of peace because it is the design right from the center of creation, from Sky Woman herself.
Y nos movemos a un tiempo de paz porque es el diseño original de la mujer cielo.
But it will only happen if all the animate objects that her energy flows through is working with her power.
Y va a pasar solamente si todos los objetos animados mediante los cuales trabaja su energía están trabajando con ella.
If we're not working with that energy, then us as workers, we're working on something else.
Y si no trabajamos en esa energía, los trabajadores estamos trabajando en algo más.
So think of this, the work, which we are, we're the workers, we're there to do the work to separate that skin that has to be shed from the body. So just imagine, if we're not there doing that work, what is happening? What are we doing?
Y si no estamos ahí para ayudar a que esa piel sea quitada, ¿cuál es el trabajo que estamos haciendo?
What would happen, which is conceivable, is that if the workers are not there to separate that dead skin, the dead skin will stay on us all around. We will be covered by death.
Lo que pasaría es que si los trabajadores no están ahí para sacar esa piel, la piel se quedaría encima de nosotros, entonces estaríamos cubiertos de muerte.
Now, if you got dead skin on the outside of you,
Y si tienen piel muerta en su exterior,
we could equate that to different skin diseases.
podríamos equivalerlo a diferentes enfermedades de piel,
Maybe like even sclerodoma.
como esclerodoma.
If you ever seen anybody with sclerodoma, you know how painful it is.
Y si han visto a alguien así, saben qué tan doloroso es.
And that pain doesn't stop until they die.
Y ese dolor no se detiene hasta que fallezcan.
Because what they're feeling pain from is the nerve endings of the first skin dying, and then the next skin underneath dying, and the next one underneath dying and dying until right to the core where it affects their internal organs, everything, a person dies of sclerodoma.
porque lo que sienten es el dolor de los puntos terminales nerviosas que afectan la piel que está cayendo y la parte inmediata de la piel y así hasta todos sus otros átomos.
or any other skin disease, skin cancer, whatever.
Y así pasa con esa enfermedad o con otra enfermedad como la cáncer de la piel, por ejemplo,
The concept is the same.
que es el mismo concepto.
So ultimately, what your question about these energies and if the people are not working with them, all of this is, of course, necessary for the people to identify those energies, to be able to work with them. And if the people don't work with these energies, then that's what will happen. The death will stay on the body, slowly permeating the body.
Entonces, con respecto a tu pregunta, eso es lo que la gente tendría que estar consciente de saber cómo trabajar con esas energías. De lo contrario, la muerte se va a quedar ahí permeando el cuerpo.
Yeah, okay. Unless there's something else on that, we'll move on.
A menos de que haya otra cosa, vamos a continuar.
Ana.
Was there?
So, Susan, you wanted to say something? This will be your turn. Susan, ¿querías decir algo? Sería tu turno.
Can you hear me?
You can.
Okay. I just wanted to briefly say that what was said regarding connecting the dots, I thoroughly agree with that Philip and I separately have been walking home all our lives, and we met by accident about 12 years ago in a meeting that we didn't know it was going to happen. We didn't know each other until Philip actually introduced himself in the meeting. And then the light went on. And from that point on, we have been working together. There was some separation, but we've been working together to pull our family together. And so what's been being discussed about going home, all our lives, we've been practicing that and we're continuing to do so. As well as something that the Shoshone seer told me in 2012, when he said there's a global instruction to walk into peace with ourselves, our family, and our peoples. I've been shy to say that he also told me that the women of the world will lead the way, and he told me I was one of them. So my relationship with you folks and the things that I've been doing and my decision to walk away from education has all brought me to this particular point. And I do have contacts in Hawaii. My sister has contacts, and I'll do what I can with that.
Mhm.
Susan nos dice, antes que nada, que ella no conocía a su sobrino, que se encontraron solamente hace 12 años y fue por una circunstancia en la que estaban juntos en un encuentro y que hasta que él se presentó, ellos pudieron deducir que eran familia y a partir de ahí decidieron juntarse para traer a su familia junta. La otra cosa es que en 2012 un visionario le contó que las mujeres en el mundo serían las que liderarían la nueva etapa y que ella sería una de ellas. Entonces, nunca le es muy humilde como para decir esto, pero ahora lo quería compartir. Y está contenta de estar con nosotros y del hecho de que gracias a este contacto ella dejó atrás la educación que estaba recibiendo y que hoy se encuentra en este punto en la vida de estar constantemente de regreso a casa.
Okay, I got to ask you some questions here because this sounds like a very big story.
Tengo que hacerte unas preguntas porque suena como una gran historia.
Just for me to understand this again, Philip, you said is your nephew. Is that your blood nephew?
Yes.
Dijiste que Philip era tu sobrino, es tu sobrino de sangre, ¿sí?
But you didn't know that until a few years ago?
Pero
Yes.
no lo supiste hasta hace años.
Our family for several generations have been blown to the four directions. There's been separation and alienation all the way through. Adoption, both Philip was in foster care. I was in adoption, taken away from everyone that we knew, and we fought our way back to the people.
Huh. Holy crap.
Nuestra familia fue separada en las 4 direcciones. Felipe estuvo en familias siendo adoptado. Yo también estuve en un proceso de adopción. Entonces, nuestra familia ha sido completamente desintegrada y alienada.
And only by him being in a meeting that you happen to be at the same meeting, him standing up and saying, "This is who I am," that's when you became aware that this was your nephew?
Yes.
Y es en el momento en el que él se levanta en esta junta y se identifica que tú sabes que él es tu sobrino. Así es.
Okay, you got an epic story.
Tienes una historia épica.
We, connected to you, have an epicer story.
Y nosotros conectados contigo tenemos una historia todavía más épica.
Our story becomes more and more epic the more dots that we have to connect to see how big the picture is.
Nuestra historia se vuelve cada vez más evidente, cada vez que hay más puntitos que conectar.
I would say to you, perhaps the most important thing that you can do
Y te diría que tal vez lo más importante que puedes hacer
is to tell your story,
es decir tu historia
story.
tu historia personal,
Your personal story will reflect to the world.
que va a dar un reflejo al mundo.
Just imagine, you know how many original peoples throughout North and South all have the same story as you.
Imagina cuánta gente de los pueblos originarios en el norte y en el sur tiene la misma historia que tú,
But without the outcome you're now experiencing.
pero sin el resultado que estás viviendo.
There's a lot of people who the stun bomb has successfully just kept them, basically it's like this, that the stun bomb scattered everybody and there's like scared children in the corner hiding still.
Hay mucha gente que fue afectada por esta bomba que cayó en medio y es como si estuvieran en una esquina todavía escondidos con miedo como niños.
Telling your story may help somebody to come out of just that little darkness that they're in.
Y contar su historia puede que ayude que alguien salga de esa oscuridad en la que se encuentra.
And then for those who are already on their path into the bigger journey,
Y para aquellos que ya están en su viaje,
this will be something that makes a person strong,
va a ser algo que haga una persona más fuerte,
something that makes them be able to move with more energy,
que les haga capaces de moverse con más energía.
the exact energies that Celinda's talking about.
Estas mismas energías de las cuales Celine está hablando.
So how we tap into those energies that are unprovable to other people of science
Y cómo tocar esas energías que son improbadas por la ciencia
is through people such as yourself.
es con gente como tú.
Just quite simply telling their story, how the energy played out flowing through them.
Diciendo cómo en tu historia la energía fluyó mediante de ustedes.
This will be inspiration to thousands, tens of thousands, perhaps hundreds of thousands of people.
Y esto va a ser de inspiración a miles, tal vez decenas de miles de gente.
Just hearing it, it's an inspiration to me.
Y el hecho de escucharla es una inspiración para mí.
You pulled out of a wrong path of going down that path of the white man. Now, your focus needs to be on your family, of returning your family, putting them back together. And the way to do that is through the public energy that made you come apart.
Y tú te saliste del mundo del hombre blanco y ahora el objetivo es el de traer a tu familia de vuelta y el medio es a través de este foro público que les volvió a juntarse después que habían sido separados.
Let's see, you were going to school for law. Let's imagine you get out of law school, you're going into maybe corporate law or whatever other field. Maybe you're going to make, because you have morals and that, you might make, if you're lucky, maybe $50,000, $60,000 a year.
Digamos que ibas a la escuela en Derecho y tal vez con todas las circunstancias podrías haber tenido un salario de unos 50 o 60 mil dólares por año.
But now when you pull out of that, then even that ability to take $50,000, $60,000 a year to provide for yourself is gone.
Y ahora que saliste de la escuela, tu habilidad de tener acceso a ese dinero se fue.
So where I say take that collective energy of the people that did this to you, we're talking about the non-native world.
Y cuando te digo que tomes la energía de este mundo no indígena que hizo esto hacia ustedes como familia,
And how you take their energy or use their energy
y cómo usa su energía,
is to tell your story,
es diciendo tu historia,
but not in the way that, oh, look at us, we're so poor, what you done to us.
pero no de una forma en decir, ay, mira, pobrecitos, ¿cómo
Pero-
estamos?
But in a way as to look at what you tried to do to us.
Pero en una forma de decir, mira lo que trataron de hacernos
Look at who we are
y mira quiénes somos
and what we stand for
y por lo que estamos de pie.
and what these true people do in this world when they are on their proper path.
Y lo que la gente hace cuando se encuentran en su verdadero camino.
You use that energy to telling your story, and that may replace your possible $50,000, $60,000 a year that you may have made on that corrupted path.
Tú utilizas esa energía y puede que llegues a obtener ese dinero que dejaste por no seguir ese camino corrupto.
And what is now your story? I don't know how much more you got, but because just hearing that, that's really something that's really a mind-blowing way that the story's unfolding for you.
Y no sé qué otras partes tengas que contar de esa historia, porque solo esto que acabas de contar es completamente extraordinario.
So this could be the thing that instead of killing two birds with one stone, that breeds life into two birds.
Y esto sería lo que podría ser que en lugar de matar a dos pájaros con una piedra, sería el agua que daría vida a dos pájaros simultáneamente.
And those two birds will be the messengers of life,
Y estos dos pájaros van a ser los mensajeros de la vida,
of your life.
de tu vida.
The beautiful life of what your people were and what they still are, despite all the corruption in the world of 500 years coming here to attempt to destroy it.
La bella vida de lo que trataron de destruir y de lo que todavía tienen a pesar de 500 años de destrucción.
I tell my niece this, I tell a lot of people this, you need to write a book.
Y yo le digo esto a mi sobrina y a mucha gente que tienen que escribir un libro.
You need to tell your story.
Necesitan decir su historia.
Nowadays, maybe it's not a book. Maybe it's your own video documentary.
Hoy tal vez no sea un libro, sino un video documental.
Or maybe it is you writing it down and then you reading it off and trading that with people because they ain't got the time to read today. You could get your story out to them this way.
O tal vez es escribirlo y después leerlo en un video para intercambiarlo con la gente, porque la gente no tiene el tiempo de leer hoy en día.
But regardless, the bottom line here in getting your story out is not and should not be the amount of money that you're going to get out of it. Should be the intent of getting the truth of the story out there.
Y por supuesto el objetivo no sería tener dinero, sino tener la verdad en el mundo.
When you do that, we're all going to see other people rise to the call. You're saying, let's be brave. They'll see you stand up and they'll come out of their darkness and they'll stand up too, to be brave like you.
Y cuando hagas eso y les digas es hora de levantarse, otros van a levantarse para tener el mismo valor que tú.
Anyways, that's a crazy story you got.
Y es una historia bastante intensa lo que cuentas,
Pretty much just like everybody here, all has these crazy.
como todo el mundo aquí.
We wonder, you know, each of us, we don't know how crazy our story is because each of us are only within our own story. And sometimes we can't even believe our own story. So we don't think that other people would comprehend it.
Nos preguntamos qué tan loca es nuestra historia porque a veces no sabemos si la gente la entendería.
This is the intent to, like you said, to separate the families. It's to separate the stories. The stories are the knowledge.
Y como dijiste, la intención es separar a las familias porque son las familias las que tienen el conocimiento.
So if stories are knowledge,
Y
as
si,
they are, then tell your story.
y si las historias son el conocimiento, entonces cuenta tu historia.
Get the knowledge out there.
Haz que el conocimiento salga.
If you have anything on that, if not, we'll move on.
Si tienes algo más que decir.
Miigwech.
There's nobody else.
I'd like to hear more of that story though as we go along. Maybe, you know, each week or whenever we see you, if you can keep adding to that story.
Well, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. There's much more to that story. That's just the highlights. I was born in an ethanol bath. My mother drank while she was pregnant with me, and I survived.
Stuart le dice a Susan que le gustaría saber mucho más de esta historia porque es como que si cada semana nos puede contar algo y Susan dice que esto es nada más el inicio, hay mucho más y lo que nos cuenta es que ella nació en un baño de etanol, es decir que su mamá bebía cuando ella estaba en su vientre y sobrevivió.
What I see is where we're going ultimately.
Y lo que veo es a dónde vamos últimamente.
Is back where we came from.
Es de vuelta a donde venimos.
And as you identify, you're walking back.
Y como tú lo identificas, estás caminando de regreso.
And this is within the ceremony that was identified to us a couple of weeks ago when they say that the sun begins to walk back. It returns back.
Y esto es en la ceremonia que se nos dijo en el que el sol vuelve a caminar.
So that means that 360 days are away from home. 360 days are working to get back to home.
Esto significa que 360 días están lejos de casa y que están queriendo volver a casa.
What I see is in the expanse of time, as we're all one body here, one consciousness.
Y lo que veo en el tiempo aquí es que como todos somos un cuerpo, una conciencia,
That the crazy people came here to try to destroy what is good.
la gente loca vino aquí para tratar de destruir lo que es bueno.
And if you think of the body, we know what they done to the body. They cut off the hands, they cut out the hearts, they cut off the lips, they cut off the ears, they cut off the legs. They've done this to our bodies. They cut every part of our body apart.
Y si piensas en el cuerpo, vinieron a cortar las manos, los ojos, las orejas, los corazones, nuestro cuerpo.
You may be a finger on a hand. Your nephew may be another finger.
Puede que seas un dedo en la mano y tu sobrino otro dedo.
When you find the others, you can put them on the hand. The hand will be detected. And when the fingers are back on the hand can then be put back onto the arm.
Y cuando estén todos conectados, es decir, encuentres a tus otros miembros de la familia, se va a poder volver a poner la mano al brazo y completar el cuerpo.
Until our body is put back together.
Y así todo va a estar puesto de vuelta.
And we once again have collective consciousness.
Y tener una conciencia colectiva de nuevo.
When we return back as one,
Cuando volvamos a ser como uno,
we will find ourselves sitting there and identifying like, what the hell happened to us?
vamos a encontrarnos sentados al lado el uno del otro y diciendo, ¿qué nos pasó?
What was that nightmare?
¿Cuál fue esa pesadilla?
We will be back together.
Vamos a estar juntos de nuevo
The nightmare will be gone.
y la pesadilla va a haberse ido.
The non-native world is stuck in the corruption of keeping war alive. This means all 7 billion people are living a constant nightmare.
Porque el mundo no indígena está encerrado en mantener la guerra constante, lo que significa que están en una pesadilla sin parar.
They will not, it is impossible for them. They will not awaken out of this nightmare they have created for themselves.
Y no van a despertarse de esta pesadilla que han creado para ellos mismos.
And so they will be like that dead skin on the body that is slowly deteriorating every living part of themselves until they just disappear.
Y van a ser como esa piel muerta que va a irse desintegrando tranquilamente en el cuerpo hasta que desaparezcan.
At any given time throughout the history of since they have been here,
Y desde el inicio de la historia, cuando llegaron aquí,
they will say, this is how it is. But the white man never knows a goddamn thing about how reality is.
van a decir que es de una forma, pero nunca saben cuál es la realidad.
And therefore, all the people that he controls, all 7 billion people, all have their heads up their rear end the same way that he does. They're all following him into the darkness.
Y por eso toda la gente que le sigue están siguiéndole hacia la oscuridad.
And so none of them will awaken.
Y nadie se va a despertar.
It's impossible for them.
Imposible.
There is only one way that anyone can or will awaken.
Y solo hay una forma de despertar.
And that will be the ones that we choose to awaken.
Y esos serán los que escojan despertar.
And our choice of who we will awaken is not determined on that, oh, well, look at that one. They got a nice car, or this one has this or whatever. No, it's not going to be determined by any of this.
Y nuestra opción no va a ser basada en el carro o en el dinero que tengan.
It's going to be determined by the law of which governs and powers a nurse who is working in the triage unit in an emergency room.
Sino por la ley de una enfermera que trabaja en las urgencias.
So it will be only those awakened, the ones who are showing hope or possibility of them awakening.
Van a ser solo aquellos que demuestren esperanza o posibilidad de despertar.
So in this whole big picture, again, all of it is, as all things in creation are dependent on human reciprocal interaction with that thing.
Y como todas las cosas en la humanidad, depende de la interacción recíproca con lo grande.
In the future, when our face is yet beneath the earth, speak to Yunkiat Dizu.
En el futuro, cuando nuestros rostros aún abajo de la tierra le hablen a Yunki Adizo,
They will be speaking to us.
van a hablarnos a nosotros.
The same way that when we speak to Yunkiat Dizu, it is the mothers and fathers, the grandmothers, grandfathers, great-grandmothers, great-grandfathers that have come before us.
De la misma forma que cuando nosotros le hablamos a Yunki Adizo, es a todas las madres, a todas las abuelas y abuelos que vinieron antes de nosotros.
And so it brings into perspective as to who we are in the here and now.
Y entonces trae la perspectiva de quiénes somos en el aquí y ahora.
Who we are, what we are, when we are.
¿Qué somos, cuándo somos, en dónde estamos?
So through this whole process, each of us coming together, healing ourselves, healing our families, healing our minds, healing our world, we will come to one collective consciousness. And in one collective consciousness, there is nothing that is not knowable.
Y en este proceso de curarnos a nosotros mismos, a nuestras familias, al mundo, va a haber esta conciencia y se va a entender que todo puede ser conocido.
But the knowing will not be so much from, say, like a manifest knowledge in your mind. It won't necessarily come from that. It will come from you being.
Pero lo conocido no va a venir de algo que sea conocido en la mente, sino más bien que ustedes van a ser simplemente ser.
So instead of you thinking about going swimming, you will be swimming.
Entonces, en lugar de pensar en ir a nadar, van a nadar.
And then we will be able to work our way up that waterfall and back to our home the same way that all the salmon do, to use each other, to climb over each other, to reach their goal.
Y entonces vamos a ser capaces de nadar como los salmones para llegar a lo alto de la cascada y llegar hacia el otro lado.
Oh, yeah, okay. If there's nobody else on this, anybody's got anything to say? If not, then we'll move on.
Si no hay nadie más que tenga que decir algo, vamos a continuar.
Okay, if there's nobody, then right now, I can't really think of anything else right now to go over. There is a lot of stuff we can talk about, but we do have to focus on what we're here for. And in this specific realm, right now, if we hit the ball across the court, there's no one there to return it. So what we might do is take the afternoon off and wait for the next game.
Entonces, podríamos hablar de muchas cosas, pero ahorita que estamos lanzando la pelota y no hay quien la reciba, lo más sabio sería tomar la tarde de descanso.
I think we've shared pretty much everything, the knowledge gained in the last week through the information sharing of the Reconstitution. I think we shared everything there, because everything that we did gain in the last week, we actually carried it out in ceremony.
Y creo que compartimos todo el conocimiento que adquirimos de la Reconstitución, porque de hecho lo aplicamos a lo largo de la semana.
Only other thing is then weather. I'll tell you about the weather here. In the last couple of days, it got really warm, which is odd at this time of year. What did it get up to? 16 degrees, something like that?
More like 12.
12 degrees, which is in Fahrenheit. I think that's around 40 something degrees. I'm not really sure. So that's really warm here for this time of year.
Últimas noticias que compartir con respecto al clima es que los últimos par de días estuvieron muy calurosos, subió inclusive a 12, lo cual es no normal.
It rained, it was a mix of sleet and snow and ice.
Y llovió y era una mezcla de nieve y de hielo.
Last night when I went outside, I put my hands in whatever little bit of ice layer is there, and there was a thin layer of like dusting on top and then the ice beneath. And when I washed my hands with it, I could feel that the texture, it's different than before.
Y ayer cuando salí y agarré lo poco de nieve que estaba en la superficie, sentí que la textura era distinta.
Some of you know that what's been happening in the world, we've been identifying, they've been putting plastics in everything.
Y hay quienes saben que hemos estado identificando que han puesto plásticos en todos lados.
This week, I don't know if any of you seen it. It was a headline somewhere. I don't know if this is true because I seen a headline on Facebook.
Y no sé si es cierto porque lo vi en Facebook.
But it says that scientists have now detected plastics in the amniotic fluid in the embryos of humans.
Pero dice que los científicos han detectado plástico en el fluido amniótico de los humanos, de los embriones humanos.
No, for a while I've been saying about what the purpose is of plastic.
Y ya hace un tiempo que he estado diciendo cuál es el objetivo del plástico,
The purpose is to fill your body
que es el de llenar su cuerpo
with plastic,
con plástico,
so that you then have the basis of, just like the way a computer is made, like the computer chips, all of that, it's silicone based.
para que tengan lo mismo, por ejemplo, que los chips de computadoras que están a base de silicona,
It's basically plastic.
que sea plástico.
And something today I seen in a movie that we were watching earlier that made me understand this even a little bit deeper.
Yo vi algo en una película que me hizo entender más allá.
Is that over the past, let's say 30 years, everybody in the world has become aware of plastic explosives.
Que en los últimos 30 años la gente ha sabido sobre los plásticos explosivos,
They call it C4.
que le llaman C4.
Now, when I was younger, I used to wonder, and I still don't know, but I used to wonder, how the hell does plastic explosives work? How does it blow up and kill people?
Y cuando era más joven me preguntaba cómo estos explosivos matarían gente.
I don't know. Right now, I'm guessing, but maybe what we need to do is do a little bit of research into plastic explosives.
Y me imagino que tendríamos que hacer investigación sobre explosivos plásticos.
But if you think, if it's true what you see in the movies, then you'll see a little piece of plastic. It looks like clay putty or something, maybe about this big. If you could see that.
Porque sí es cierto, en las películas pueden ver algo parecido,
Maybe about the size of a phone, say.
como del tamaño de un teléfono.
Now, you know that in order to get this thing to explode, that it's got to be a series of molecular actions, reactions, from this plastic molecule right here to the next, to the next, to the next, all the way till it gets to the end. There's something within that plastic that conveys the message from one to the other.
Y saben que para que explote significa que una partícula va a comunicar a la otra y así simultáneamente para que exploten.
Again, I don't know about this kind of stuff,
Y no sé acerca de estas cosas,
but with a little research, we'll know the ins and outs of it, but we do know plastic explosives. It is a real thing.
pero con un poco de investigación sabríamos que es algo real.
So from here, this is where I deduce
Y lo que yo deduzco
that there is something that has designed and engineered a process of how to plasticize us.
es que hay algo que ha diseñado el cómo plastificarnos.
Not just you,
No solamente ustedes,
all of us.
sino todos nosotros.
And once we're plasticized,
Y una vez que estamos plastificados,
and if you put enough of us together, just like a plastic explosive,
y si pones a varios juntos como un plástico explosivo,
then maybe we're going to explode.
puede que vayamos a explotar.
But what it shows us is that undeniable is that plastic inside of us solidifies our body to make us the same as what in a computer board, that we are basically the computer board, and the different chips, the nanoparticles that are floating around that are already inside of us will then have the foundation of which to sit or to be on that computer board, and we will be computerized, completely artificial intelligence.
Y esto significaría que como cada parte nuestra sería plastificada, seríamos sujetos a nanotecnología, que sería realmente la inteligencia artificial.
Anyways, this is something that maybe I'm entirely wrong on this. It's one of those things that I hope I'm entirely wrong.
Y puede que me equivoque completamente, toco madera,
But we can't deny that there are facts here.
pero no podemos negar que hay hechos.
Whether or not the fact is, whether this is a true article or not, of plastics now being in the amniotic sac in the human embryo.
El hecho de que esta noticia sea verdad o no, de que hay plásticos en el embrio humano.
You know already the microplastics are everywhere. They're in the food you eat, the water you drink, the air you breathe. So you can pretty much determine there is no way. You do not have the capability to prevent plastics from entering your system.
Ustedes saben que hay microplásticos en todos lados y que no hay forma de que puedan impedir que entren a su sistema.
So we are becoming plasticized,
Entonces nos estamos volviendo plastificados
plastic man.
como el hombre de plástico.
We know there's plastic explosives and they do a lot of damage.
Sabemos que hay explosivos de plásticos que hacen mucho daño.
Maybe this will be the way to have the ultimate suicide bomber, by them not even knowing that they are a bomb and not even knowing that they are being activated to be a suicide bomber.
Puede que sea la forma de crear un bombero, no, alguien que tenga una bomba suicida, un suicida con una bomba y que sin la gente sepa que se está siendo activado.
Okay, anyways, that's just something further that I deduced this week.
Esto es algo que detecté y deduje esta semana.
Yeah,
There's a link that raise your hand.
okay, if there's something anybody's want to say on that.
Celine, you raise your hand.
No?
When you said about telling a story, our story, there's one that came up to my head and that I felt that it was time to share it. during a ceremony, I was given a shaker. Is that what you call it in right? A shaker. And there was a story that the person told me that came with it. And he was explaining how it was a woman that went to the Hopis territory. Yeah. But you have it at your place, the one I'm talking about. I'll tell you about the story. And this woman was in the Hopis territory, and as she's driving around, she could hear a voice coming from a house. And so she stopped and she went to the door, and the woman says, "Oh yeah, my house is like a museum, so come and see what is in this in the house that is calling you." So she walked around, and sure enough, that shaker was there, and that was the voice that was coming from. So she brought it with her, and she knew it wasn't for her, but she knew she had to be transmitting this shaker. So at a ceremony, I received that shaker. And when I received it, it was to me, the sound of it was very powerful. And I was able to use it to, because I hear I record music with instrument. Yes, you're right. That's the one. That's the story of that shaker.
Serena está diciendo acerca de esta historia de alguien que iba manejando por el territorio Hopi y que escuchó como si alguien le hablara. Entonces se detuvo en una casa para ver de qué se trataba y había esta sonaja que la señora se la dio a ella. Y entonces Celine sabía que esta no era para ella, sino que la tenía que dar.
Yeah. And when I met this man, Dave, he knew it was for me. He felt that it was for me, so he gave it to me, and I've been using it ever since in ceremonies, especially in sweat lodge, and because I couldn't bring my drum in the sweat lodge because it was deerskin, it would have all been soft. But with that shaker, I was able to. And so it's been through a lot of ceremonies. And last year when Isu took his voice, the message I received was to hand it out to him. It was time for him to have it. So that's what I passed over to him and told him the story about that shaker. And I truly felt that it was for him. So I guess it's following the route that is supposed to be taken. Yeah. So I thought it would be a good story to share today.
Utilicé esta sonaja en varias ocasiones y hasta que la utilicé, por ejemplo, en los temazcales porque no podía llevar mi tambor porque se iba a humidificar. Y entonces la utilicé en muchas ceremonias hasta que cuando Esu habló por primera vez en la ceremonia de la Dungwa, utilizando su propia voz, entendí que era algo que tenía que darle a él y a él le conté esta historia y entonces es en donde se encuentra esta sonaja.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. Nobody else? Okay, then. One last thing. This time that we're moving into, everything that you heard today, we've identified, you know it anyways, you can feel it. It's all energy flowing around.
Y una última cosa, ya lo hemos identificado y es que hay mucha energía flotando alrededor.
When we're in a time like this, there is unlimited possibilities for any one of us.
Y cuando estamos en ese tiempo hay posibilidades ilimitadas para quien sea.
You can say that at any time, any given day, there's unlimited possibilities.
Y podemos decir que cada día hay posibilidades ilimitadas.
But there is a fact of certain times of year. If you go outside right now, like winter time here in the northern atmosphere, northern climate, you'll look outside, you won't see many animals. You go outside 6 months from now, you're gonna see tons of animals.
Pero el hecho es que ahorita si ustedes salen no van a ver muchos animales, pero si salen en 6 meses van a ver un montón.
That's just to identify. Yes, you could have possibilities anytime, but realistically, at certain times, there's more possibilities.
Y es solo para dar el ejemplo de que hay posibilidades ilimitadas todo el tiempo, pero más en ciertos momentos.
And again, it's dependent on our interaction, our reciprocal interaction.
Y de nuevo depende de nuestra interacción recíproca.
And so, right now, this is what I'll advise everybody to do. When you go to sleep, keep a book or even just a piece of paper or maybe your phone or anything that you can record your voice on.
Y lo que les sugeriría es que guarden, ahora que se vayan a dormir, un pedazo de papel, un libro o inclusive un teléfono o algo en lo que puedan grabar.
If you wake up during the night and you have this image and you know that, well, maybe you can't remember the whole dream, but there's this image, something. And, you know, sometimes you go back to sleep, you'll forget what it is, but you'll wake up the next day and you'll think, oh, there was something, it's right there, but I can't remember.
Y si se levantan en medio de la noche y que tienen esta imagen y que tienen que transmitir, porque después si se levantan al día siguiente, muchas veces pasa que dicen, ay, ya no me acuerdo, tenía esto, ya no me acuerdo.
So because of all these energies floating around and because you are reciprocating with them, even in your subconscious,
Y debido a estas energías y porque están haciendo reciprocidad con ellas, inclusive en el inconsciente,
be ready to record the messages that you receive.
estén listos para grabar los mensajes que reciban.
You may think that you hear sometimes people saying, oh, I received a vision. So you may be thinking, wow, a vision, you know, that's what I need, you know, and you may be thinking that, what the hell does a vision look like? You know, a vision is a simple thing, very simple, simple little dream of an instance, a flash, an idea.
Y a veces la gente va a decir, recibí una visión, entonces ustedes van a decir, ay, pues es lo que yo necesito. ¿Y eso cómo ocurre? No es nada complicado, es simplemente un flash, una idea que viene a ustedes.
So be ready to record.
Entonces estén listos a grabar.
No, we don't want to hear, you know, if you had a dream going bowling or something.
Y no queremos un sueño acerca de ir a jugar billar, por ejemplo.
Or if you had a dream about a girl or a guy that you really liked, you know, those personal things, you don't really, that's your personal story.
O un sueño de alguien que les gusta, porque es su historia personal.
But the things that are in the public realm, the public domain,
Pero lo que se encuentra en el dominio público.
then those dreams, those visions, record them, keep them in a way that where you know it's information that maybe a year from now you might need that information.
Y esos sueños y esas imágenes, guárdenlas porque puede que las necesiten dentro de un año.
So yeah, keep that ready, and with the energy floating around, I'll bet you anything that maybe even by this coming Wednesday, we'll have 2 or 3 people coming forward with a dream that you recorded.
Entonces guárdenlos y puede que este miércoles tengamos a alguien que ya nos tenga visiones o sueños que compartir.
Okay, if there is nothing else, no one else has anything to say, no information or nothing, then we're going to close early.
Y si no hay nadie más que tenga algo que compartir, vamos a cerrar temprano.
All right. Don't forget about the moon. Focus on the moon.
No se olviden acerca de la luna y concentrarse en ella.
We got the full moon coming up in 2 days.
Yeah, Tuesday.
2 days we're in the full moon cycle.
Estamos en la luna llena este martes.
That means we made an adjustment now onto the way that we see things. You've heard us say in the past that there are 3 power nights for the full moon, 3 power days for the new moon.
Lo que significa que nos acabamos de ajustar. Nos han escuchado decir en el pasado que hay 3 días de poder para la luna nueva y la llena.
While that is still true, what has just been affirmed to us through our interaction through this process of that of the 5 days that the sun is there before it starts to walk back. This has been confirmed to us that it's 5 days of power. So you have not just 3 days, not just the day before the full moon and the day after. You have 2 days before and 2 days after. That's a 5-day spread.
Y lo que nos acaba de ser confirmado es que a pesar de que sí hay 3, hay 5 en realidad. Son los 2 precedentes, la noche y los 2 después.
So we're starting in it right now, tonight.
Y empezamos hoy.
So as we're in that power, you renew your relationship with her.
Y como estamos en ese poder, ustedes renueven este poder con ella.
Even if you don't believe this,
Incluso si no lo creen,
speak to your grandmother moon.
háblenle a su abuela Luna.
Even if inside your own thoughts, in your own head, you may feel stupid saying, oh, I can't believe that I'm even saying this. Oh, thank you to our grandmother moon.
Inclusive si en sus propios pensamientos se sientan estúpidos por hacerlo, porque estoy hablándole, gracias abuela Luna.
Once your mind is there, then you just identify the facts.
Una vez que su mente esté ahí, identifiquen los hechos.
So I first massage my mind to the point necessary of having my mind open to that energy.
Entonces, primero masajé mi espíritu hasta que estuviese abierto para esa energía.
And how I massage my mind to get to that point is I do the Ahondagari, you do the Ahondagari Wadekwa in relation to and for the giving thanks and acknowledging our grandmother moon.
Y como lo hacen es masajeando para dar gracias a la mujer cielo, a nuestra abuela Luna.
Your mind will be massaged into a spiritual state.
Y su mente va a estar masajeada hacia un estado espiritual.
And then when you take your scientific knowledge and you incorporate that in your spiritual state,
Y cuando tomen su conocimiento científico y lo incorporen en ese estado espiritual,
you will find, you will solidify a knowledge for the first time in your life that is a spiritual, scientific, natural science.
van a solidificar por vez primera en su vida una ciencia espiritual.
So once you're there, then that's when you say the things that are. First, you begin with the scientific facts. Our grandmother moon regulates the flow of the tides.
Entonces empiezan con los hechos científicos. Abuela Luna regula el flujo de la marea.
If that's your first step and that's as far as you can go, then you think from there. What's in the tides?
Si ese es su primer paso, piensan qué hay en la marea.
It's water.
Es agua.
So if she's moving the waters around, then all the stuff that's in the water is being moved also.
Y si ella mueve las mareas, todas las cosas que están en el agua también.
And then you can see, you draw the parallels to the amniotic fluid.
Y después pueden ver los paralelos al fluido amniótico,
The amniotic fluid of the life giver.
que el fluido amniótico de la dadora de vida,
In the big body, our Mother Earth,
en el gran cuerpo que es de nuestra madre tierra,
in her amniotic fluid is the design, the blueprint for all babies.
en su fluido amniótico está el diseño para todos los bebés.
And in those babies are human babies.
Y en esos bebés hay bebés humanos,
And then those human babies become human adults.
y esos bebés humanos se volvieron adultos humanos,
And then they have babies.
y luego ellos tienen bebés.
All extracted from the amniotic fluid that is in the womb of that mother, that human mother that was once a baby.
Y todo lo que viene del fluido amniótico de esta madre que fue una bebé en un momento dado,
Who came out of the amniotic fluid of our Mother Earth.
quien vino del fluido amniótico de nuestra madre tierra,
So we all swim in that ocean.
y todos nadamos en ese océano,
We all come from there. There is the blueprint.
y todos venimos de ahí, y ahí está el diseño,
And now it's all plastic.
y ahora todo es plástico.
Make your connections to your grandmother moon in this way.
Hagan su conexión a abuela Luna de esta forma,
And then ask her, what can I do? Show me how I can correct this, how I can reverse, how I can take the plastics out of the amniotic fluid.
Y pregúntenle qué puedo hacer, cómo puedo hacer para corregir, cómo puedo tomar estos plásticos del fluido amniótico.
And keep your dream book next to you at night, and she's going to talk to you, and you'll come back and you'll tell us a plan.
Y conserven su librito al lado porque ella les va a hablar y vuelvan y vengan a decirnos el plan.
Okay, so we're going to close.
Entonces vamos a cerrar. Y hello everybody. Granun ko agwe wakatsanuni agwe gogonunwe danorununwe skatne agwe xano Condor gatsahaya. We are happy that the life givers and the life protectors came together for this council of the eagle and the condor and the eagle. Estamos contentos de que las dadoras de vida y los protectores de vida pudieron venir juntos a este consejo de el cóndor y el águila. Edith Yujits, Ista Soko, Dano Axota Yundajis Kwe Panchita, Dano de Ganaxota Naneda Yundajis Kwe Selsa, Zapotecni Hunsage, Mexican Wenerista, Yonatahuni Yankinosadista, Antoharage Ganosesne, Ladinyanga Haga Garnawage, Newisni Hunsage, Nowarage Kawanoge, Deiti Nuaratu, Garunwakurias Queso, Dano Yonkisota, Santaneca Caracua, Dano Yankinista, Hunsage, Danaguego Skatne Gonunwe, Deiti Nuarado, Tarañuago Danosa Whiskara, Sini Kanya Tarageru, Aguego Onunquasu A, Oguiresu A, Utinuasu A, Gatsasu A, Otsita Nagu A, Gatsisa Su A, Dano Ague Contirio, Honesteo Sahera Dano Osra, Dano Ague Dunhets, Wahta, Ganio Hondesa, Sgana Watarana, Suauntia Chinica Garaqua, Dano Yankisoto, Radiweras, Asanigatara Gene Ganyanga Haga, Yadinato, Yonata Yuni, Dano Discarawage, Ayunki Atagan Hadanda, Waran Hetsera, Nea Weka Watsire, Dana Wekatsanhayang, Yankinistani, Hunsage. Itinuarado, Jakun Sesetano de Canawida, Nahuego Diane, Dano Rodiane, Niyo Hahio, Canico Rio, Dano Gayandawana, Gayanara Saragoa, Dano Tegini de Yohade, Ayunki Atagen Hadandawa, and Hetserane, Gastastansa, Negununwe, Dano Gayandawana, Gastastansa Rununwe, Dano Agwex, Dano Generata Zegoa, Dano Orihuyo, Skana, Gastastansara, Dano Gariwa Warishunsera, Dano Nogatena Yodaxa. Eres awet.